one of the great scenes in all of college football.
A crowd that is proactive. You better pack your poise and your toughness and your resilience, because this crowd was able to disrupt opposing offenses.
This is the best student section in the country by far.
Blizzard of football fandom roaring here.
This crowd's getting into it, and as a quarterback and an offensive line, makes communication difficult.
109,000 people just keep getting louder and louder.
The crowd noise has been a huge advantage here at home for Penn State.
You get 110,000 people to show unity. You tell them that they matter, that they make a difference, that they are needed, and you get this.
Penn State Football Media Day 2023 coming your way. Man, that video gives me goosebumps. This place is going to be rocking in less than a month from now. The kickoff of the 2023 season against West Virginia on Saturday, September 2nd. It is a early August day here. It is a hot Sunday here inside of Beaver Stadium for our Media Day coverage here in 2023. Brian Tripp, delighted to be with you. We'll have Coach Franklin's press conference to kick this whole thing off coming up at 12:15. Then we'll hear from each of the coordinators, and then we'll also be joined on our set by student athletes throughout the course of our afternoon. So welcome in as we kick off this new football season. So much to look forward to, coming off an 11-2 year for the Penn State football team, and the victory over Utah in the Rose Bowl. Seems like a long time ago. I'm ready for the season to start. Let's take a look at our rundown of the day's activities here on our Media Day live stream for this 2023 Media Day. Coach Franklin's press conference again is coming up at 12:15. Then Coach Collins will talk special teams at 12:50. At 1 o'clock, Manny Diaz coming up on our stream as well, and then Mike Yurcich at 1:10. Our guests coming up also joining us right here on set, head coach James Franklin, Mike Yurcich, Manny Diaz, Stacy Collins, and then, as you can see, we'll touch on the offensive and defensive sides of the football. But what better way to kick off a new season than to be joined by the play-by-play voice of Penn State football, Steve Jones. We do this every year, Steve. I know you've had an opportunity to get out there and see the first couple of workouts for the team. What's it been like to be back on the Lash football practice fields?
It's been great, and they're off to a great start. One of the keys to any preseason, Brian, is do I have the same team 2.5 weeks in that I start the preseason with? And this is a team that does feature something above all. We talk about athleticism and about great players, but they have depth. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the keys that you have to have in today's game, the depth. And I'll give everybody an example. Look at the Rose Bowl. In the Rose Bowl, you didn't have Olu Fashanu, you didn't have Landon Tangwall, and you didn't have Parker Washington. Well, those are 3 of the 11 starters that you had to start the season, and the depth allowed them to overcome that and play as well as they did. And this team, I feel, is 2 and in some areas 3 deep at many positions.
You know, when we were out at Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days about a week and a half ago, that was the first question I asked Coach Franklin when we were on the plane. I said, going into last year, all we heard about was the new depth coming in, the freshman class, and the immediate impact that they were going to make. And it feels like this is a roster now with the recruiting, the development, that it's even one step further than where it was last year, and I think that's the growth that you're seeing right now from the football program.
That's exactly right, and that makes such a big difference. Drew Shelton, for example, because they had him, he could play left tackle when Olu was out. Oh, and by the way, who made the big block on the 87-yard touchdown run by Nicholas Singleton where he took out 2 guys? It was Drew Shelton. The emergence of Abdul Carter is somebody that, as the season went, more and more Abdul Carter. At the beginning of the season, no, but as the season went, more and more. And that's the development part of it that we get to see. And I think because of the depth, it allows both coordinators, and this is not an underrated point. You're going to have the coordinators on? Well, it's been years since Penn State's had all the coordinators back.
2017.
Yeah, it's been years. Mike's in his 3rd year. Manny's in his 2nd year. Stacy's in his 2nd year. So they've got everybody back. That makes such a difference. And now they really have a good feel for all the personnel. And I also feel like they've done an excellent job in the transfer portal of filling in gaps where they need to fill in gaps. And a guy that's going to be critical with that is Chop Robinson, who's now in his second year of the program after transferring in last year.
Well, I think the thing, you mentioned the coordinators there and the stability there. James Franklin's now the second longest tenured head coach in the Big Ten. And this is a day in age in college sports where there is not stability, but his stability is really important to lead the whole thing, and knowing how he's evolved and understanding the intricacies of the program. He's got that great relationship, obviously, with the administration all the way down. He talks about the synergy all the time. You feel like that stability is number one where you start, and that's why so many pieces fall into place after that.
Well, this place has been known for stability for obvious reasons, okay? I mean, what Joe Paterno did, being there for 46 years, 61 overall. James is in his 10th year now, and it's not just how well he knows his program, the alignment with the Board of Trustees, with President Neely Ben-Battuti, with Athletic Director, Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Patrick Kraft, but it's also the relationship he has with the fans. He has gone to great lengths to understand what the blue band means. He's gone to great lengths to understand what the quarterback club means. He's gone to great lengths to understand what the Penn State Alumni Association means. And now he is ingrained in the culture here. And at the same time, he's brought that culture, in his version of it to Penn State, and people have really embraced it. They've also embraced the fact that he has produced winning football. 4 11-win seasons in the last 7 years. That's winning football.
Well, we're going to hear from Coach Franklin coming up at 12:15. He'll be at the podium. That will kick off our Media Day live stream after Steve and I wrap up here giving our opening thoughts on this 2023 season. West Virginia is going to be here before you know it, and Coach is going to be on the podium before you know it. Quickly, offensive side of the football, what are you looking forward to learning over the next couple of weeks before West Virginia?
I want to see who receivers really, in my mind, 5 through 7 happen to be. I've got a pretty good handle on who I think the first 4 receivers are, but receivers 5 through 7, I want to see who emerges to be consistent there. I also want to see how the second team offensive line looks, and then on the defensive side, same thing. What's the depth on the defensive front, which will be critical, and then what will be the depth pieces at linebacker.
All right. Head coach James Franklin will be coming up at 12:15. We'll also have all the other coordinators at the podium. As they're talking, we'll also have them down here with us for one-on-ones. As you go into this fall, we talked about some areas you're looking to see maybe questions answered before West Virginia. Where do you feel like this team is strongest right now before we get to see them out there on the football field?
Well, look, the stars are the stars. Singleton and Allen are stars. Carter's a star. Jacobs is a star. Kalen King's a star. I mean, and you could go through the long list of guys that fall in there. The stars are the stars on this team. Now, what about the guys that are really good that may not be the star of all stars, but they're really good and they're a big reason why you win? And the other part, too, is when you talk to Stacey Collins, special teams will be important. I think Tyler Dzansky is going to be a really good long snapper for them. But who ends up being the place kicker? Who ends up being the punter with this team? Because James Franklin does not give special teams lip service here. It is a critical segment, several segments donated to special teams during the course of a practice because he knows how important they are to get those valuable yards and inches you need to win games.
You talked about the wide receivers. You talked about Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton in the backfield. Sean Clifford was the starting quarterback here for the last 4 seasons. Are you prepared to call someone else's name taking the snaps this year? And how valuable was the experience that Drew Aller got last year playing behind Sean Clifford and learning from him throughout the year?
It's a lot of pressure on Jack and me. Look, Drew Aller and Bo Perbula are 2 terrific prospects. And I think they bring an exciting dynamic to the team. The ball's just a little different coming out of Aller's hands. Perbula is a bigger, I think even quicker version of Trace McSorley. So they have great options there at quarterback. And I think that's going to be exciting for the fans to see. The fact that Drew had a lot of game experience last year, and he did, a lot of game experience, the game will not be going 1,000 miles an hour when he's in there. The game is now slowed down for him, and you can see even in practice right now how much the game is slowed down for him, and he has a really strong handle on the offense, as does Bo.
I'll add one more element to that. When you're putting someone in that position as the starter, quote-unquote, for the first time, when you have the running backs that are in place, the wide receivers, the depth at the tight end position, and on the offensive line, it doesn't just fall on that individual to carry. They can ingratiate themselves on a slower pace if necessary.
Right. If you could kind of turn around and go, you know what, maybe I'll hand it off to 10. Maybe I'll give it to 13. Oh, and by the way, Trey Potts isn't a bad third element either. Trey Potts is a terrific third guy. I can, and it's interesting about you talk about the wide receivers. You know what the wide receivers are competing with? They're competing with themselves, and they're competing with the tight ends.
Yep.
Because Warren and Johnson, there are going to be times where there are two tights out there, and you can't get more than three wide outs on the field, or maybe two based on the running back. So that's who the wide receivers are competing with, not just themselves, but the tight ends to see who's playing out there.
And when you look at that, not only are they competing against other guys on the offensive side of the football, but when you have that secondary, those corners going against that receiver group, one of the core values obviously is compete in everything you do. That's where this football team's really going to grow and improve throughout the course, I think, of the next couple of weeks before we see them against West Virginia.
It's really shown in the first three practices. Iron is sharpening iron. It's not just the defense dominating. The offense has won enough over the first few days of practice. And that's been really important to see, because that tells me that you've got a really well-rounded team. You want to have drills where the final is pick 15 plays, where the final's 8-7 one way or the other, because then you feel like you were able to get something out of it on both sides of the ball.
Well, let's hear from the head coach now. Head coach James Franklin is at the podium to kick off Media Day 2023.
And supporting Penn State football, we truly appreciate it. We're a few days in now, so we got a better feel kind of where we're at. I think we have had a really good off season, from winter workouts to spring ball to summer training. I think our strength staff have done a phenomenal job. Our guys have done a phenomenal job. We are bigger, stronger, and faster than we've been. I think we got a little bit more of a mature team, and that plays a role in it at some positions. But it's been good. I thought our practice 1 was really good. I thought our practice 3 was excellent, which happened yesterday, which was extremely competitive. First day in shoulder pads, and that was good. So a ton to build on, and obviously having all 3 coordinators back in their positions, there's a ton of value in that. So there's really no new teaching going on, except for the young players. So far so good, been very competitive. We are looking forward to the open practice that we're having, which is something that is new. It's something that we've really wanted to do for a while. I've brought it up to the coordinators, and we haven't always all been on the same page that everybody wants to do it. I think some of you guys know me and Manny went and visited the Patriots, this past off season, and we think it's going to be a good thing. One of the reasons I'm excited about it is we like to play in Beaver Stadium. We think being in Beaver Stadium is good for our guys, so they're not experiencing it for the first time. But I also think there's an aspect of playing in front of the fans and playing in front of the media that also prepares our guys. One of the things I would ask from you guys as a media team that covers Penn State football, Chris and Greg are going to kind of put out the rules of that. We've gone to basically the Steelers and the Eagles, and we're going to pretty much cover a very similar format, the way they do their open practices. And to me, if you guys can follow that, that would be great, because then we'll be more likely to do it next year. If some people can't follow then that would be problematic for all of us, and I don't think good for all of us. So I think this can be a win-win for everybody. So, but we're excited about it. We got a good team. We got an exciting season coming forward. We got some interesting matchups. Obviously, most importantly, we open up here at night against West Virginia, 7:30. So should be tremendous opening game of the season. So appreciate everybody being here, and look forward to spending the season with you guys, and I open it up to questions.
All right, please raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, James, how you doing?
Hey, Mark.
You're in a very volatile profession, but now you're here going into your 10th year, second most tenured coach in an 18-team conference. Can you wrap your head kind of around that? And does it seem like it's gone quickly, or given all the things that have changed, has it been kind of a long journey here?
Yeah, I think your description of the profession is accurate, and I think that's for a lot of different reasons, as we all know. You know, this is kind of aligns more with kind of my DNA and kind of who I am as a person. Very loyal person. But I also think it aligns with kind of what the university is used to as well. So I think those things, you know, make a ton of sense. It is also very unusual as well for there to be, I think, 3 different athletic directors during that time and 3 different presidents. And I want to make sure I'm perfectly clear on this. I am very, very appreciative and have a ton of respect for all 3 presidents and all 3 athletic directors who all came to Penn State at different times with different challenges. And I'm very, very appreciative of all of them. But yeah, it's somewhat unusual in today's college football, which also in some ways is sad, right? I think stability is good for a lot of things and for a lot of people and a lot of organizations. But I don't take it for granted one day. This is a special place and a special community with history and tradition and passion. You know, so it's special. And I think you guys know, I think we have 19 alumni working in the Lash football building, 10 former Lettermen. So we take a lot of pride in that as well. There's been some challenging days, but many more good days. And I wake up every single day feeling blessed and appreciative.
Hi, James. You've made it clear what you think of this team, that how well you think you can be. Why is that? And do you feel like the window is as open as it's been for you guys to get to the playoff?
Yeah, I don't know if I've necessarily said all the things that you just said. And sometimes I think you guys do that to try to trick me to just go along with what you say. What I have been very clear on, in my opinion, is I do think this is as much depth as we have had. We got a 3 deep at pretty much every position. And I'd probably describe it a little bit in more detail as probably more of a 2.5 deep. So what I mean by that is if you're talking about the defensive end position, really talking about 5 guys that we think we can win with. So 2 deep at each side, and then a spare. You know, a 5th guy that could swing it. But at some positions, I do think we have a true 3 deep. I just don't remember us having that as consistently across the board. And that really even goes to the specialists. I think we got more competition at the specialist positions that we've had in the past. So I think the stability on the staff, the more depth, those things are good. And I think they typically lead to giving yourself a chance to be successful. So are we excited about it? Yes. Do we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of questions to answer? Yes. Do I think we are arguably in the best conference in college football and specifically the best division? I think we're part of that argument. I think it's hard to say that we're not. And again, I've been a head coach in both conferences that are a part of that discussion, in my opinion. So I think I got a pretty good lens on all of this. So that's how I would describe it.
Coach, I love some early camp reaction. What's the one story you have wanted to go home and tell the family from this first week? What's the one thing that's really jumped off the page?
I guess after 10 years, there's not as many new and exciting things to talk about. But, but I try to usually get home at a reasonable hour and sit down and talk with my wife. A lot of times the girls are in bed. One of the things that was cool yesterday, Frank Leonard, we were talking about this on our ride home last night, how many wives and kids and families were at practice. And I think that's another thing that we take a lot of pride in here at Penn State is it is a family atmosphere. In a lot of places they say it is, but it's really not. People aren't comfortable coming into the office and being around. My wife was at practice yesterday with the second dog that we've gotten. I didn't want the first one. I actually like the first one now, but I'm not gonna like the second one no matter what. But it was cool having all the wives at practice, and I think that's important for our players. I think that's important for our culture. So coming home and just kind of filling my wife in kind of on the blanks and things that are going on in the program, but I feel really good about it. I don't really have anything that's kind of exciting that I'm going home. Kind of can't wait to tell my wife about that happened today, because we're very routine oriented. We don't tweak and we don't change a whole lot of things unless they need to. We found a better way of doing it based on off-season studies of best practice. So we're very routine oriented. This media day and this press conference pushed our staff meeting from 7 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. So the coaches love you guys for that. But we're pretty regimented about how we do things. So not a whole lot of that. What's up, Ricardo? How you doing, buddy? Ricardo played for me at the University of Maryland, was a great player, and we've stayed in touch and is doing great things, so it's really cool to see Ricardo here. Welcome to Happy Valley, brother.
James, a few days ago, the news that Oregon and Washington will be joining the Big Ten. What were your initial reactions to that? What are your thoughts of that in the future?
Yeah, I had some conversations. It's really cool that our president, Dr. Ben DiPuti, picks up the phone and calls me and includes me in those conversations and discussions, and Pat Kraft as well. I'm very appreciative of that and don't take that for granted. I will say that, my focus, and obviously this press conference is about specifically our football team and getting ready for West Virginia and getting ready for the Big Ten Conference. I do think it obviously, with what you see that's going on in college football right now, it's not shocking, that these things are kind of happening. It's somewhat sad in some ways, not that these people are being added to our conference, because I think obviously there's a lot of strategy that goes into that. But, I do think there's some challenges that come along with it, and it's just very different for most of the people in this room. It's very different than the college football that we all grew up with, and not really college football, college athletics, where, at least for most of the year it was pretty regional. I do think it's a huge win for USC and UCLA. From a travel perspective, I think it's a huge win for them.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Are you saying you're a cat person, first off? Not a dog person?
No.
Okay. Just no animals?
Yeah, it's back to the routine thing.
Okay.
Like, I think me and my wife kind of had the two daughters finally figured out.
Right.
And then you're adding another thing to the equation.
Just want to make sure on that.
Yes,
Look,
sir.
Going back
No
to Mark,
cats.
Got it. Going back to Mark touched on as far as year 10 goes, and just, I know conference realignment's one of the changes, but just the game itself, you've seen so many unprecedented changes in the game since you've been here. I mean, transfer portal, NIL, conference realignment, expanded playoff format, overtime rules. What were the easy ones to predict that you saw, maybe the ones that you're surprised by, and ultimately, how has it affected your day-to-day operations or the way that you do your job from when you started to now?
Yeah, it's been dramatic. And, I don't know if COVID has played a part in it as well. But it seems like since COVID, it's sped everything up. But the last 5 years, I think you guys have heard me say this before, there's probably been more changes in the last 5 years than the previous 50. And I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close. I think the game and the rules were the same for probably at least 50 years. And now in the last 5, there's been changes and dramatic changes. I would make the argument, I think we could sit here and have a pretty interesting debate that some of the changes were needed. I would also say, in defending the NCAA, that nobody seems to be doing anymore. I think people see once they try to get involved in it that a lot of these decisions and a lot of these changes and a lot of these rules are much more sophisticated than people think and much more challenging than people think because they cross over into a lot of different worlds. But I guess this would probably be the best way to describe it from my lens and my perspective is the transfer portal. I think it's like the pendulum, right? I think the pendulum has overcorrected. But I would say there was a problem. Should head coaches have been able to have the power to deny kids from transferring from 10 to 10 different schools? Yeah, they shouldn't have been able to do that. That was not right. That was unfair. And to be honest with you, there was really only a handful of people that abused it. And that's probably the same way in any industry, right? There's a few people, maybe 5%, that abuse the rules. Well, now that happens, and now a rule has to be put in place to correct for that. And I think that's really what happened. Instead of maybe allowing coaches, I think it would have been much better to have the conferences and the commissioners come up with a standard rule, whatever it may be, 5 schools, or you can't transfer within your conference or whatever. But there was people saying anybody on our schedule 5 years out, like it just was too much. I also don't think that just complete open transferring is good. And it's funny because I think when a lot of people say things like this, it comes off as being anti-student athlete. And that's completely the opposite when it comes to me. But again, I still believe in the student athlete model, and I still believe that the number one thing we should be doing is educating. And when I talk about that, what I mean by that is when you look at graduation rates, the data is very strong that every time you every time you transfer, the likelihood of graduating goes down because you lose credits. So I think that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's a much more sophisticated issue. Do I think the players should have options and choices? Yes. Do I think the coaches should have been able to restrict student athletes from transferring, anywhere that the coach didn't want them to transfer to? No. But I think we could have gotten to more of a middle ground rather than from one extreme to where we are now. And then if you take education out of it, just the ability for college athletics and specifically football to teach people how to overcome adversity. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum, you come up with rules and guardrails. Well, then the lawyers know what the rules and the guardrails are, so then they use them to create an exception for every kid. So, in my defense of the NCAA and the model to a degree, the problems and the challenges are more sophisticated than I think people realize. And I think one of the best things that we can do is get all the commissioners in the same room at the same time, and try to do what's best for college athletics as a whole, because they're the most powerful people in college athletics, in my opinion.
Hey, James.
Hey, Neil.
Can you talk about what you've seen from the quarterbacks through the first few practices, and do you have a timetable for naming a projected starter?
Yeah, they've been throwing it, handing it off. Yeah, no, I was just messing with you. Drew and Bo, obviously, in year 2, they look like guys that are year 2 in the same system mentally. They look like guys year 2 physically. They've both gotten stronger. They've both gotten leaner. They've both gotten faster. They've gotten more confident with their reads, their accuracy, their decision making, their those types of things. So they've been impressive. They really have. I think you just triggered a thought to a question earlier about a surprise. I'd say Smolik has been kind of the surprise at camp so far, specifically in the quarterback room. He's one of those guys that, although he is still learning the nuances of the position and the nuances of the offense in terms of in the meeting room, when asked questions, he's not where Drew and Bo are in terms of being able to answer questions in a meeting room, but he's just got a natural feel for the position on the field. Some guys, it's almost like a point guard. You just got a feel for depth and spacing on the field and how to find open receivers. He throws a really nice ball, so he's doing well. He's been. If we can continue to build on this, I think we'll feel good, about where he's at. But Bo and Drew, I think you guys will get a chance to see him obviously here at practices over the next couple of weeks. Then the open practice will get you a bigger, something that you guys have asked for, which is a little bit more time, getting a chance to see the team and evaluate the roster. They look like guys that are year two more experienced guys that are confident in how to execute and run the offense. And I think both of them have the team's respect. In terms of decisions, we're not announcing or making any decisions at this point really at any position. It's a competition, and we want to create competition at every position as long as possible, because I think it brings the best out in everyone. And as you guys know, that's really kind of how we've operated here for 10 years.
Hey, James, right in the middle here. Third row. There you go.
Hey, John. Sorry.
You good. You mentioned having a 2.5 or 3 deep at every position. Is wide receiver one of those positions? And where's Dante Sivas at now that he's had a chance to practice with you guys?
Yeah, I think wide receiver is a position where I wouldn't necessarily say we have a 2 deep or 3 deep that's defined yet, but I think we have a good number of guys that legitimately are competing for that third spot. But really, when you talk about the two deep, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and I think there's probably 8 guys that are legitimately in that competition, and it kind of goes day to day. The big thing that we're looking for, at each position, and then really across, our team and as our team as a whole, is consistency. That's one of the things we talked about earlier today at the end of our walkthrough. Is we got to consistently have championship level practices. And that's really the same thing at the wide receiver position. There's probably 8 to 9 guys that are showing flashes that they could be the starter for us. But it comes down to consistency at every position. And I'd say it may be a little magnified at that spot. And specifically to your question about Dante, he's done some really good things. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. The guys like him. The guys got a ton of respect for him. He's shown flashes. I do think there's an adjustment period that he's going through because it's one thing to do it 2 or 3 times a season when you're watching him play an opponent like Georgia. It's another thing to do it week in and week out in the Big Ten, and I think it's another thing to do it every day at practice. And I think he's really embraced that, and I think he recognizes it's going to bring the best out in him as well.
James, all the way back to your right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Your safety competition, you said in Indianapolis that was one of the question marks you had. How do you feel about those guys right now? Is there anybody that's popped out at safety to you?
So that's a position that we probably have right now, a 2 deep. That I think really the 2 deep, you could make the argument is better than the 2 deep we had last year. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that the starters are going to be better because, as we all know, Jair Brown was a hell of a player and a ton of production, but I don't necessarily expect one person to replace his production. I think he had 8 interceptions last year and 16 interceptions over the last 2, I think, if that may be accurate. And what you hope is among that group that we can get that type of production as a group. But I think an important piece is back to what I was saying is I do think we got a 2 deep we feel good about. We got to have at least a 5th guy that we feel good about. In ideal world, we have a 3 deep. We're not there yet. That's one of the positions I think we got a 2 deep. But we need at least to be able to figure out who is that 5th player going to be that, as you guys know, will most likely be in the 2 deep at some point, this season.
Hey, James, how's it going? Right,
hey, Ben.
Audrey. Obviously, it's not uncommon for guys to work
Ben,
with.
where are you living now?
I'm still in Minnesota, so.
You just come in for certain.
Yeah, I've been on 40 airplanes since last September, so I love you.
Love you too, man.
Just kidding. Some message board's very unhappy right now. It's not uncommon, obviously, for guys to work with.
Just so everybody out there, Ben doesn't love me, and I don't love Ben. Don't have to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh boy. I know it's not uncommon for guys to work with position-specific coaches away from campus.
I like you a lot, though.
You're fine.
I get fined? Okay.
No, I like you.
Let's
too.
get to your question.
Guys work away from campus with position-specific coaches. Obviously, that's not uncommon. When it comes to Drew and his relationship with Brad, obviously you've got another guy you can't talk about that also works with him. How do you get on the same page, especially at a position like quarterback, where it kind of matters more that everybody's giving him the same message, and how does that process sort of work to make sure that you're on that same page?
I think it really helps at every position if there's a relationship there, right? I think that's the only way it really works, is there must be a relationship there, because if your players are going home to work with a trainer that has very strong beliefs on how things should be done and how they operate, and he's really spending time teaching things in a very different way than we are, then it's really in nobody's best interest. So for there to be a relationship on the front end, maybe while they were in high school and things like that, and even maybe some communication going on, that trainer is saying, listen, I want this young man to be successful, so I want to make sure that I understand what he's being taught on campus, and then try to bridge the gap as much as possible. That's really important. And I would say, really, I'm a believer in the trainers, really at every position. But I would say that if you're a high school student athlete or a college student athlete and you're working with a trainer that's not trying to work in cooperation, and again, I don't want people to misinterpret. It's not like these guys are an extension of my coaching staff. I'm just saying that they understand what we're teaching and how we're teaching it, so that everybody is putting this student athlete, this young man, in the best position to be successful. That's important. And if someone's not trying to do that, then it puts the student athlete, in a really tough spot between two worlds being pulled in two different directions. So I think it's like anything else. I don't care what business you're in, what industry you're in, how you go about your business. It always starts and ends with relationships.
Time for 2 more. We got Tyler and then Wogey.
James back here. You talked about quarterback, cover some ground on safety. Beyond that, what positions have impressed you thus far early on in camp, and who's kind of, I guess, spearheading those efforts at those positions?
Yeah, I think depth on the D-line and depth on the O-line, is impressive. The amount of bodies, the amount of experience that I think are going to impact the team this year and have really good careers here at Penn State. I think that's impressive. I would say the same thing at the tight end position. I'd say the same thing at the running back position. Those positions stand out. I'd say the same thing at corner. So the way you're able to practice, sometimes it's difficult to develop the threes because maybe your 3-0 line is not the same as your 3D line. So now the quarterback and all the other positions suffer because of that. So I think that's back to the original question about depth. Having a 3 deep across the board allows you to develop your entire roster when you feel like you got legitimate guys to put out there, both physically and mentally. That also impacts your practice, right? A lot of times you think the practice is going really well with the 1s and the 2s, and the 3s go out, and it's just sloppy, so it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. There's less of that now. The 3s are able to go out and operate. I think that's been really valuable. We're doing you guys will probably see this a little bit. I think you saw it the other day, even for PAT field goal. Having 2 units going at the same time, I'm a big believer in that. Is most of these young men, they learn by doing, not by watching. So being able to get multiple groups out there getting reps and being coached is really valuable.
James, earlier you mentioned, I wanted to make sure I got this straight, about going to New England in the offseason. Was that you and Manny or just Manny?
Me, Manny, and Frank. Yeah, I think a bunch of you guys covered it. It got out on social media. We didn't put anything out, but somebody there used to be here, put something out, and next thing you know, a bunch of people covered it. And Coach Belichick was awesome. Frank Leonard worked for the Patriots for, I think, 3 years. Manny had gone up there the last couple of years, so we went up, and Coach Belichick was phenomenal to us. We were there for about 2 days. We were in all the meetings, the individual meetings, the unit meetings, the team meetings. We were out at practice. We were at training table with them. They grind pretty good during OTA, so we were there from early in the morning till late at night. Coach Belichick was phenomenal to us. Me and Manny were kind of caught off guard because he had Manny and myself address the team after practice. I'm like, what the hell does Belichick want us to say to the Patriots? But it was great. We had a phenomenal experience. And what happens a lot of times is, even if you pick up 2 or 3 things, it's worth it. 2 or 3 things that you saw at practice. One of the things we're doing right now that the Patriots did that we're now doing that our players don't like is you jump off sides, you're out. You lose your rep, and you got to run a lap around the field. The Patriots did that. And we're doing it now. So you pick up 2 or 3 things. I also think it shows the players, we're asking them to improve. I want them to understand that we are trying to improve every single day, and we're lifelong learners, not only in football, but in life. Trying to get better and trying to be the best versions of ourselves every single day for our families, for our wives and children, but also for our players and for Penn State.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. We'll have Stacy Collins right after this.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Press conference to kick off this Media Day live stream 2023 is going to join us here live on set in just a couple of moments, then we'll cut back into Coach Stacy Collins, Coach Manny Diaz, and Coach Mike Yurcich's press conference as well, and then they'll also come out and join us here on the set. But Coach Franklin's going to make his way out. He's going to come out here to our set and be our first exclusive one-on-one interview, making that walk out the tunnel. So familiar is that walk as we kick off the 2023 Penn State football season. Practice opened up. First report day was on Tuesday, and then the first day of practice was on Wednesday as this training camp is underway and Coach makes his way out here to our set on what is just, feels like we're always so fortunate. It's another gorgeous day for our Media Day live stream here to kick off the 2023 Penn State football season. Brian Tripp, delighted to be with you once again, and we're joined by the head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions, Coach James Franklin. Am I allowed to start by asking what type of dog you got?
How you doing, first of all?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. My wife is allergic, so everything is hypoallergenic. Did I say that
correct.
right? So they're all mixed with a poodle.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, I don't really know. There's something poodle, some type of designer type dogs, I guess you'd call them.
Name?
So we got Spot, who's my buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to like Spot. Spot maybe some version of like a Labradoodle type of deal. I did not want to like Spot, but I love Spot. Spot's the best dog. He's super easy. And then we got McQueen, which is a bigger dog.
So you'd rather talk about the 2.5 or 3 deep here than the dogs?
Correct, because I definitely don't want a 3 deep of dogs, for sure.
One of the core values of the program is to compete in everything you do. How does having such a deep roster help as you continue to develop leading up to the opener against West Virginia?
Well, one of the things that's great, like yesterday, for example, it was one of the better practices I've been around. And what I mean by that is we had 24-period practice. And the first period, we always start out with some type of competition, and it was really good. Mm-hmm. Came down to kind of one rep offense against the defense, who was going to win the competition. But that level of competition was sustained for 24 periods. And a lot of times, the 3 deep, they're not able to sustain it. So when those guys go in, the practice really dips. And you don't feel that right now. We got a 3 deep of guys that are able to contribute, that are able to play, will have great careers here at Penn State. So I think that's an example. It just allows you to develop the entire roster because there's more guys that are able to go out and function within the schemes.
We kicked off our stream. We had Steve Jones up here, and he doesn't miss a beat. He knows everything that's going on. We were talking about...
Well, one of the things, let me say about Steve, that I don't know if a lot of people understand, and I've done this at a lot of different places. Steve comes to practice all the time. Well, people show up to practice in Steve's position for 15 minutes. Steve's there almost every day, and he's there for almost the entirety of the practice. So he is watching it, he is seeing it, he's hearing the coaching, the interaction, he's watching the competition. So why is he the best in the business? No different than our players, because he prepares like the best in the business every single day.
And he has an encyclopedic memory, which helps.
That
as
helps.
Well. It
that
helps as well. But he was talking about when you have wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, all competing for opportunities on the field. That competition on the offensive side helps, but you also then have those guys going against maybe one of the best defensive backfields in the country. So you have the dynamic of competing for playing time and to earn those reps, but also then the value of competing against such a deep roster on the other side, going head-to-head every day in practice.
Yeah, so it's iron sharpens iron, or like Coach Yursich says, lions sharpen lions. Yep. So it's the competition at your position that maybe you got a guy ahead of you that you're trying to take his job. You got a guy behind you that's trying to take your job. But the other thing is we say that during the recruiting process. Like you got to come here and you got to embrace that this is going to be a competition. Nobody's promised starting jobs. Some schools do that. You're going to play as a true freshman. We don't do that. You'll get what you earn here. So I think that kind of sets the tone from the beginning, that everybody knows what they're walking into, number one. Then, to your point, our offense going against one of the better defenses in the country day in and day out at practice. That's good for the coaches. That's good for the players. That's good for everybody. That's good for our defense going against one of the best offenses in the country. Our receivers, which there's some question marks that we've discussed that we're trying to resolve, them going against one of the best DB rooms in the country. There's a ton of value because now you don't have to wait until game one to figure out what you truly have.
I know you just talked about this in there a little bit. You're really excited about the first couple of days that the team has had out there. You mentioned question marks. What are some of the answers you're looking forward to learning here over the next 3 weeks before West Virginia?
I think the biggest thing is consistency, and to me, consistency comes with maturity, right? Are you able to stack days? We had a really good day 1. We had a really good day 3. Now, are we going to be able to follow that up with a really good day 4? Are you tired? Are you sore? Yes. But is West Virginia tired and sore? The best programs in the country, they're going to find a way to stack days, and not just good days, elite days, and championship level type days. So that's our challenge. And with our players, it's kind of back to that 1-0 mentality that sometimes people get frustrated with us because they want us to talk further ahead. I just believe that if our players just focus on today and matching what we did the day before, that type of level of competitiveness, that type of level of execution, don't worry about next week. Let's just focus on today and trying to replicate what we did yesterday.
How important is it to have that belief in that message, especially in today's day and age of college football, whether it's conference expansion, NIL, all the noise, maybe noise surrounding the expectations going into the season, to make sure the leadership has the locker room built in to that 1-0 mindset?
Well, I do think it's important, and we talk about it a lot. We talk about culture a lot. It's not just something we throw up on the board. We talk about our process here at Penn State and how we function and how we operate, and we do it from the time they step on campus. So the seniors are teaching the freshmen. The coaches are reinforcing the message with the entire team. So I think it's helpful. We got a big game to open the season here at home, West Virginia, 7:30 p.m. This place will be rocking. Got a ton of respect for West Virginia and Coach Brown. And we're going to need to be ready. And at a place like Penn State, everybody recognizes West Virginia and how important that game is, but there's also teams in this conference that people want to talk about. There's games like the whiteout that gets a lot of national attention, that fans, media, you're walking downtown, family members want to talk about. So keeping that focus on the task at hand is critical.
When you look at last season's roster and so many strong voices, whether it's Juice, PJ, Tig, Sean Clifford, that had such great leadership with the team, who have emerged as voices to start camp to kind of replace that leadership void going into the year?
Well, I guess our captains right now, I mean, they're the obvious ones, whether you're talking about, Dom DeLuca, whether you're talking about Keaton Ellis, and then on offense, Olu Fashanu. They're the obvious ones, but you're starting to see more and more guys step into that role. But again, like we've talked about before, and I've talked about with the team, I don't really expect it to look like it did last year, but that doesn't mean we still can't have just as much leadership. Instead of it being in 4 to 5 really strong voices, it may be spread over 20, all taking that and having a similar impact collectively.
On the offensive side of the football, we'll give one offensive, one defensive question. We'll get you out of here. On the offensive side, to have the 2 running backs, then you add in some more pieces there, wide receiver, tight end room, offensive line. When you're ingratiating a new quarterback, granted year 2 in a system for that quarterback, into the offense, how much does it help to know that there's that support, that nucleus already around it to make that process a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think it's important that we're able to lean on those guys. It starts up front, with Hunter Norzad and Olu Fashanu, guys that I think are really, starting to kind of lead that unit. Obviously, Caden and Sal have played a ton of football here, but to have those guys leading and in front of a first-time starting quarterback, ton of value in that. Having the experience return at the running back room and the tight end room, ton of value in that. So we'll lean on those things, but for us to go where we want to go, we got to be able to throw the ball, create explosive plays in the passing game like we're going to create in the run game.
Talk about creating explosive plays. We saw the defense do that last year, getting after the quarterback, creating turnovers. How do you feel like the personnel really fits that identity and scheme going into this year on defense?
I think good, but it's something we challenge them on every single day. If you talk about what's going to impact winning, It's creating explosive plays on offense. It's eliminating explosive plays on defense. What's going to impact winning the most? Protecting the football on offense and creating turnovers on defense. So again, that iron sharpens iron, that battle against each other every single day at practice, with it being emphasized by the coaches and reinforced with the players with their actions, is really what it's all about for us on a daily basis.
The other thing that impacts winning when we're inside this stadium, and there's 107,000 people in here as well. Coach, can't wait for the season to get here. Thanks so much for the time today.
Yeah, I want to thank the fans and the support that we always get. But just like everybody wants us to be at our best this year, we need our fans to create an environment here, that we've never had before, and starting with West Virginia in week 1. So thank you so much.
Shade was great this year.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coach.
you. Have a great day.
Head coach James Franklin joining us here on our 2023 Media Day live stream. He's going to shuffle out, and then we'll talk some offense with offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Mike Yursich for a very talented offensive side of the football team. And let's take a look at some of those top players coming back for this 2023 season.
Showing some late pressure. It's a run. And busting free is Singleton. Nick Singleton in a foot race. One that he will win. Touchdown, Penn State.
It's what a tandem they are. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, most rushing touchdowns by Big Ten freshmen during the last 20 seasons. Caught. Lambert, Smith, sprints, touchdown, Penn State.
Now, though, it's Drew Aller, and folks, this guy can spin the hill. I mean, it is as pretty as you will ever see.
Welcome you back live to our set, and we're joined by offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Mike Yursich for the Penn State football team as we head into this 2023 season. And coach, we just looked at some of the highlights from some of the top returnees coming back from last year's team on the offensive side. How valuable is the experience heading into this season, some of the reps that even younger guys as true freshmen got last year?
I think it's very valuable, obviously, from many standpoints. I think you know certain things about certain guys and what they can do, proven guys. But you also, the teaching that they're able to provide, the examples that they're able to provide. And, we have so many walkthroughs and so many meetings. It's awesome to get those guys talking to the younger guys as well and helping coach. So that experience and leadership is critical to your success.
What did Sean Clifford mean for Bo Perbula and Drew Aller last year, as you can see those dividends and then their off season and the work that they've had pay off as you start this fall camp?
Well, Sean had such a unique career, when you look back at it, and he went through some ups and downs, and I think what you can see for the most part is how he grinded and how he prepared. And I think that's critical because the position needs such consistency. It demands that, and I think Sean was able to, over the course of time, persevere. And I think that's more than anything, just his attitude and his positive mindset, how he worked on a day-to-day. They were able to see what the outsiders don't see, how he prepared both mentally, physically, grinding through injuries, and his progression. And he was a wonderful example on the field, off the field, and how we lived. It was invaluable.
Coach just talked about not only Drew and Bo in his press conference, but he's also talking about Jackson Smolik a little bit.
Yeah.
That quarterback's room, what's the dynamic of it right now as you start this camp?
I think they're all fierce competitors.
Yeah.
I think that's.
You're smiling. You like that.
They're all, absolutely. And they're going to bring out the best of one another, but they're also great teammates, which is wonderful to have. They all want to be the guy, but they're all there to help one another. They have each other's backs, so it's a tremendous room.
Where are Nicholas and Katron now compared to where they were special last year when they first got into that locker room and into that Penn State football huddle for the first time? Where are they at now going into year two?
They're well versed in the offense, so I think they're able to mentor to the younger backs that are in the program. They're more experienced. They're just well ahead of it. You can install a little bit faster tempo than what it was a year ago. So it's just sped up. The whole process is sped up for them. So they see things, whether it's in the run game or pass game, it's just coming to them a lot faster and easier.
What can Dante Cephas add to the offense? What's his skill set as fans are going to get an opportunity to see him for some of the first time?
Well, it's early still.
Yeah.
It's only through 3 practices, but what we've seen so far is a guy that, he's got experience. I think he's really good at understanding the overall picture, concepts. He's still trying to associate from a different system, so it's going to take some time for him to acclimate a little bit, but I think what you're seeing is a guy that understands the game and the fundamentals of the game. I think he catches the ball well in traffic. I don't think he understands that press coverage is you're going to see a lot of press against physical, experienced, talented defensive backs, so he's further ahead than most in that regard. And he likes to compete.
Yeah.
You can see that he loves the competitive aspect of our program.
Competing has been a theme of our show and the interviews that we've done here so far, and also Coach's press conference. I just asked about him as a newcomer to that wide receiver room, but there's so many faces in there, so many guys competing for playing time. What do you like about the makeup of that group that you have?
Well, I think it's awesome that you do have some things that you know of some returners, but the fun part of fall camp is also seeing the things that can grow and what you see in the new guys into the program and how they can develop and how far you can take them. And even from the beginning of camp to the end of camp is going to be, it's like a puzzle. You're just trying to figure out all the pieces and develop the guys. And you really don't want to put any labels because it's early. And I think that's a mistake that you possibly can make, and let it kind of unfold, and production's going to be rewarded.
Well, it's got to be a fun puzzle for you to try to put together on the offensive side, working with Coach Franklin and everyone else on that staff and the continuity on the staff on that offensive side. Just because the different things that the personnel may allow you to do this year, how fun is it to sit down and try to put those puzzle pieces together, whether it's working with the running backs, the tight ends, the wide receivers, and then knowing that you have a very talented group of quarterbacks and also a veteran offensive line?
Well, I think a lot of it starts with our staff.
Yeah.
Not just the full-time coaches, but the analysts that coach has put together. He's put together a magnificent staff, guys that are very experienced, guys that understand the team, understand their role, and provide you as a coordinator such valuable insight. That's so big, and that's a piece of it. And have those good discussions and talk about, what direction we're heading, what suits us best, and but at the end of the day, we want to be physical. We want to secure the football. We want to be explosive and score points. Those are the things that really matter in offensive football, and those are the things that we're trying to execute every day.
You mentioned that as an identity overarching for, I think, everywhere you've been on the offensive side of the football, and then also the team and the program. But you also have to adapt a little bit with your personnel, right? What's the balance there of putting those two puzzle pieces, those two things, those two ideas together specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't think you have to figure it all out on day one.
Yeah.
I think you have to be able to adjust a little bit. You know what you want to do. You know the direction that you want to head in. At the same time, you've got to be able to take a broader perspective and be able to evaluate after a certain amount of time and see where you're at, and then be able to adjust and communicate and take it in a different direction. But at the same time, we know what we want to be. We want to be a physical offense that attacks from many different aspects and is very dynamic and hard to defend.
Are you a guy that just locks yourself in the room and does film all off season, or do you have a little time to get away?
Oh, well, there's always time to get away, in the summertime. July provided that opportunity, and Coach is great with work-life balance as much as you possibly can be. I mean, we recruit very hard, so it's challenging, but at the same time, football is fun. I tell the guys all the time, it's not like we're out there digging ditches. We're coaching football. It's a game we all love. We knew what we were signing up for. So there's demands, and it's toughest on the families, but we know what we got into there.
Well, I wrapped it up with Coach Franklin by saying I know there's a couple of scrimmages and practices that'll take place in this stadium, but September 2nd, this place will be full. Before you know it, it's going to be unbelievable. Coach, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Mike Yursich, offensive coordinator for the Penn State football team, quarterbacks coach, as we head into the 2023 season, joining us live here on our Media Day set. So he's joining us here. Let's look at our schedule of events for the day once again, as we have the press conferences currently ongoing. You can catch those on gopsusports.com if you want to see those in their entirety. Also, we'll have all of our guests coming up here on set. We've already nailed the first two down. Coach Franklin, Coach Yursich, Coach Manny Diaz, Coach Collins will come up, and then we'll talk on the offensive and defensive sides of the football with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. We're actually going to have those running backs on here together. Well, the tight ends on together as well. Tyler Warren and Theo Johnson, Olu Fashanu. Then on the defensive side, Chop Robinson, Curtis Jacobs, and Kalen King. Now we dive into the special teams, maybe a little linebacker talk as well with Stacey Collins. Coach, great to see you as we kick off a new season. Does it feel... Were you ready? Let me ask that. As like July goes on, is it, okay, I can't wait to get out there on the practice field with these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the cool things about this profession is the change, right? You get a chance to, you get through the season, you get into, the off-season working and recruiting, you're into spring ball, you head into the summer, and then you start getting dialed up. You're on that vacation in July, you're getting ready to roll, and you start thinking about, that last week of vacation, you're wanting to make sure you got your practice plans right and you're ready to go.
Where'd you vacation to? Have to ask.
I went out west. I've got family out there, so we spent some time on the coast out west and got a chance to see some people, so it was great.
Coach Franklin, when he was with us, Coach Yursich just talked about, I know everyone's talking about it in the media room as well, the level of competition and with how deep the roster is this year is certainly really significant. How has that directly correlated to the way it's going to impact special teams?
Yeah, certainly. The more depth you have from a special team standpoint, that puts us in a good position. It gives us a lot of competition at different units, gives us depth. Because, these are long seasons, and you get a chance for some guys that may not develop quite so fast early, but later in the season you get a chance to get in work. And the competition's been great, but right now we're focused on the fundamentals and techniques.
What's a day-to-day look like for maybe start at the kicker position, punter position, as you try to identify who those guys are? What are the things you're measuring throughout camp to find out who's going to be the right fit for different situations? Because you may end up going with a different place kicker than you do field goals, PATs. We've seen, whatever it may be through the years, you're just trying to find those right puzzle pieces to put together.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head is the situational part of it. So as we start through camp, we work a lot of fundamentals and techniques. We're focused on the overall growth and development, but as we progress through camp, we're certainly going to get in the situations and see who can handle those situations the best. And but really our focus today is have the best special teams meeting we can have today and have the best special teams practice we can have today.
What's the best drill to put pressure on a kicker trying to make a game-winning kick that you can do in camp?
Well, I think we do it. We do it at the end of practice with Coach Franklin. We got the whole team around. It's loud, the music's going, and we put that pressure on. We did that yesterday, so it's always fun.
What has Alex brought to that room at kicker?
Well, Alex, you got a guy who's older, and I think he's brought competition to the room, and that's exactly what every position needs, and Alex done a great job doing that.
I'll ask the same question about Riley Thompson as a punter, as fans will get to know him for the first time.
Sure, I think the same thing. Riley is a little bit older by age, maybe not as much, time on the field, but he has that experience, and I think that experience makes our room better and puts competition out there with what we're doing.
Great accent.
Absolutely.
Coach Franklin talked a lot about that 3 deep, and we talk about how it correlates then to special teams. What's the balance of finding guys that are appropriate for those, not just the specialists where your kicker, your punter, your long snapper, where you're trying to find who's going to be that next guy, but also then how that impacts who your gunners are going to be. All those other roles, I think everyone talks about special teams. They just want to talk about the few specialists, but those other roles as well.
Yeah, there's really 41 other roles after 41 other spots, and I think that's what's great right now is our guys. You're getting to see guys that have experience with it, understand their fundamentals and schemes, but you're also seeing some young guys that are growing every day, and we're developing them every day, and we'll continue to do that throughout the season, and that breeds competition, and that competition is always going to make us better.
What did you learn during your first year at Penn State?
I think this is a very, very good special teams conference. It is, and I got a ton of respect for the opponents that we play, and so that part's it's an unbelievable place.
Yep.
Just so unique, and it's been the opportunity to work here, to coach here, to be around our players, and to be around this community has been impressive.
And you never know what's going to swing a game one direction or the other. And Coach was just talking in there about the best division, arguably, in all of college football. I know this is something that's addressed in the meeting room every day. You never know what that 1 or 2 plays may be that could swing a football game.
There's no doubt about it, and that's where our role is, from a special team standpoint, is finding that hidden yardage in between, making sure we're setting up the offense and the defense in the best position, putting points on the board, and finding a way for us to help this team win.
We have fans watching from all across the country today, probably all across the globe, knowing Penn Staters. When you talk about hidden yardage, can you explain what that means for fans out there?
Yeah, really, you start talking about, hey, when we punt the football, we talk about a net punt. So what's the net gain off of that? When we talk about our kickoff and kickoff return, the starting field position, all that, all those yards towards that, hey, maybe that extra yards on that 10 yards on that kick return. Maybe we get an explosive tackle on kickoff. Maybe it's a great play by our gunner. All those hidden yards add up, and those are a lot of times, as you talked about, the difference between winning and losing close games.
The last thing I want to ask you here, because you brought it up, you talked about family, you talked about culture, and how strong it is inside the Lasch football building, how important it is here at Penn State. What have you learned about that family and culture that Coach Franklin has been able to instill throughout his 10 years here in Happy Valley?
I've learned that it's real, and I think that's the biggest part. When you're around our players, our family, our coaches, it's real, and that's impressive.
Coach, appreciate it.
All right, thanks,
this place will be packed next time.
Let's go.
Stacy Collins, Penn State Special Teams Coordinator, joining us here live on our Media Day set. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
He's going to head on out, and let's check in the media room right now and rejoin our press conference for just a couple of moments. Mike Yursich is at the podium.
That room, but particularly a new position coach with Coach Higgins. How are you trying to support him as his position group is being highlighted? Make sure that he's developing in the system that you want, and how do you evaluate how he's responded and the room has responded to those challenges from Coach Franklin?
Yeah, I'm not a big micromanager of position coaches. They are, they kind of define their own abilities in the meeting rooms, and Coach Higgins, the relationships that he has with his players is over the top. His presence in the room and the messages he sends and how he sets the mindset in that room is remarkable, and I think that's made a big difference. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about that entire room. Competition, and just keep those guys. We're going to need them all, right? We're going to need all those guys, and they all have to continue to press on. And when we ask them to block, they got to be physical as heck. And when we ask them to run routes and it's man coverage, they got to separate and make plays and create, big play opportunities in space. That's the name of the game. So production will be rewarded, and we're going to continue to evaluate and keep the competition on. And it's a long season, and we're going to need each and every one of those guys. That's for sure. Thank you.
Up front, Daniel.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. Staying in the wide receiver room, you added Dante Cephas this summer.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the early impression of him, and what, based on what you saw at Kent State and have seen so far, what do you think he can bring to the room?
Early impressions are that he's going to continue to learn and grow in this offense because it's new, right? So any player, it doesn't matter. They have to learn the system, whether it's signals, the verbiage, the alignments, but what we do know is that he won't blink. Early on, it's only been 3 practices, so I don't want to crown him, but he looks like and appears to be a guy that's going to be a little bit more ready, a lot more ready than maybe a rookie would be, right? Because he's seasoned. He's had big-time game experience. And so you can see that early on that he understands the competitive nature of this level in this game. And so it's early to tell, but, it's heading in the right direction.
Front and center, Todd.
Hey, Coach. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. The rule change. You got an experienced offensive line. You got great running game coming back, and some young quarterbacks. How much is this game going to change as it's shortened as first downs and the clock keeps moving after the first downs? And does this happen to be a year that might work in your guys' advantage? But just your overall thoughts on the shortening the game and less plays.
It's interesting. I think the stat of points per play is probably the most important statistic in football, right? When your efficiency, not just total yardage, right? It's not about total plays. It's not about passing yards. It's about points per play, And so for us, regardless of the rule change, and maybe now it's even magnified, surely it is. It's all about being efficient on every snap and making sure that we're on schedule, that we're being explosive, and that we're ahead of it. And so, I don't know. I've heard a stat that it's going to be somewhere around 7 offensive plays per game that you're losing. And so if you average 6.2 yards, you could do the math. It is what it is, but it's the same for both teams. So it goes back to making sure that we're as efficient as we can be in every single football play.
That's offensive coordinator Mike Yursich at the podium with his press conference. Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator, had his press conference a couple of moments ago. Let's check out some defensive highlights first, and then we'll have Coach talk about those highlights to kick off our one-on-one here with him on our set as Media Day continues.
This will be a big test today, though. This is a really elite Penn State defense. And rising loop to throw, and it's going to be picked off. McCarthy sprints out of the pocket, and that one knocked away and picked up. Look at this. But what pursuit by this Penn State defense.
All right, we chose those because we had guys getting after the quarterback and creating turnovers on that Penn State defense. How excited are you to kick off this season, especially with the personnel that you have the opportunity to work with every single day?
About to say my favorite thing watching that, it was all different people.
Yeah.
Because some defenses is always one guy that you got to count for the high volume of big-time plays, and we had so many people contribute in terms of getting after the quarterback, creating turnovers, and to have the volume of those people back gives us a platform to grow off of what we did a year ago.
You talk about a platform to grow off of. As the first season went in that scheme, in that defense, it seemed like there started to become a level of trust, a level of comfortability. How does that then evolve one season, an off season, and now another camp starting to get under those belts?
Well, you've seen it. The players have seen it in action. They know what it looks like in a game. They're not watching cut-ups of some other team or just watching practice video. And you got to have those real-time game mistakes to really sometimes correct it. And that's where I give our guys a lot of credit. They got better as the year went on, like all good teams should do. But our goal this year is we want to start September the way that we ended January a year ago. We don't want to have to take it to halfway through the year to really find our form.
As you know from all the stops that you've had in college football, that's easier said than done, too. What has to happen when the coaches aren't around to make sure that is the starting point for 2023?
Yeah. Well, first you got to have a great connection as a defense. You got to have guys that want to play with each other, for each other. That almost don't want to let their teammates down. And when you have that, you've got the basis. That's where all the extra work, the extra preparation, that's where all that's going to come from.
When you have a group that you're working with on a daily basis, Deion Barnes, Stacey Collins, Anthony Poindexter, Terry Smith, we just talked with Mike Yursich, and he brought up the guys that he gets to work with on a daily basis. To have the continuity, to have that group that's such a valuable sounding board, what's their impact and what they can do for the defense as well and help you?
Yeah, well, now they all, like the players, they've seen what it looks like. Mm-hmm. They know, and we're all able to sing out of the same hymn book. And anytime you have that, and not just those guys, you got to talk about Gabe Infante and Rick Lister and Dan Connor and Bryce Jones. So, and even having Deion go from being on the defense staff but now at the D-line coach, that is just that continuity. Where you're not having to explain to the coaches what it's supposed to look like. That's really helped us out this offseason.
What's your advice to Deion as he moves into that assistant coach role for the first time?
Biggest advice would just be you. As a coach, you have to be authentic to who you are and how you coach. But I think what's exciting for Deion is he gets to set the tone of what a Deion Barnes defensive line looks like. And where I've got a lot of respect for Deion, he knows how the D-line is supposed to look in the context of this scheme. Mm-hmm. And I think he's having a lot of fun. And I really think that room has taken a giant step forward from where we were a year ago, and that's a mouthful.
Why is that?
I think it's because of the understanding of what we want to do and how we want to do it. Certainly, especially in terms of playing the run and how we strike blocks. I think we understood it a year ago, but I don't think we really got it until late in the season. I think we're now able to teach that in a way where our players are very comfortable with how we demand our guys to play and the level of disruption we want them to play with.
When you talk about disruption, that's where the defense starts. You want to get after the quarterback, you want to make plays in the backfield. When you have players like a Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac, Denai Dennis Sutton, knowing that they can possibly do it without the extra help, what kind of creativity does that give you as a defensive coordinator?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, you know, if you can just get home with rushing forward, that really helps. But the key is you have to leverage the offense into long yardage situations. That's really what it all comes down to. That's why you got to be great on first down, stop the run. It's kind of like you got to eat your meat and potatoes, right? And if you do that, the dessert's amazing. But you can't have dessert first. You got to take care of the basics.
What do you like about that linebacker room?
Well, now, this time last year, we were a big-time question mark. Now we've done it. We have guys that, not just three. We go deep, almost to a two deep of guys who have made plays in Big Ten games. Now it's taking the next step. We have to continue to evolve, not to just not be a weakness, but can we be a strength of this football team, which we should be at Penn State.
Abdul Carter, year one, comes on the scene as a freshman. Tough to do in the Big Ten Conference, but does it successfully. What's the strides he then makes in year two?
Yeah. Anytime in my career when you've had guys who've had great success as a true freshman, you have to recognize there is a tendency with expectation to think that you have to outperform even that, which in a way they will if they just do their job. And because when talented guys do their job, they will show up making extraordinary plays. If they think they have to make extraordinary plays, they often don't make any plays at all. And so I think understanding that sort of weird paradox is what's so important. I think Abdul gets it, that with his talent, if he plays simple and is where he's supposed to be, in this scheme, there will be plenty of chances for his name to be called out over the loudspeaker.
Let's go to the secondary. Obviously, Joey Porter Jr. had a great career here at Penn State, going on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to do great things there. That cornerback room first, then we'll get to the safety position. That cornerback room is deep. It's a great group. What can they do on the outside, again, kind of like the defensive ends, that give you that creativity and flexibility because they can do so many different things?
Yeah, well, the number one thing a secondary always has to do every year is reestablish your sense of urgency and the chip you play with on your shoulder. Everyone this time last year knew about Joey. Kalen, maybe not so much. Johnny Dixon, for sure, not so much. And those guys had a great year because they played with the chip on their shoulder, felt that they were disrespected. Well, now people know about them. They've gotten all the plaudits, rightfully so, but you can't lose that sense of urgency. You can't lose that chip. But to have guys like Kalen, Johnny, Hardy, I'll tell you, Cam Miller's playing with a lot of sense of urgency. Yep. And when you can play man coverage and lock people up, the quarterback has to hold the ball longer. And that's where that great relationship between our pass rushers and our corners, you can't talk about one without talking about the other, because the two of them make each other's life possible.
I feel like we could do this for hours here because there's just so, Coach talked about the depth, you've talked about the depth, and you go to the safety position. Yeah, Tig, unbelievable player, great career, but I think there's so much excitement to see what Jalen Reed can do in a bigger role, what Zakee Wheatley can do in a bigger role. KJ Winston had a great spring. Keaton Ellis has been around and knows what it takes to succeed at this level. There's so much excitement about each room that we can't just spend time diving into each individual, but that room, what they can bring to the football team is so valuable on the back end. We saw it as ball hawks even last season.
They can do it. And I think here's the important thing to take away, really almost at every room in up and down the defense, is we have guys that are coming back that can do it, and we have depth of guys that have done it in the game. But it's like you've lost your cleanup hitter.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, all those guys made plays, but Tig, that guy batted fourth in our lineup. Joey Porter batted fourth in our lineup. Now, all the other guys had great plays around him, but we have to make sure that we have that guy. So it's not just having guys that can play well. We have to have guys that can play great like Tig played great like Joey played great. And I think that's that challenge. Okay, you've done it in a game. Are you ready to be that guy in basketball? Are you ready to be the 25-point scorer? Because that guy left. Last year you were scoring 15 a game. That was really good. Your role's got to increase now.
You mentioned and made a baseball analogy, which I loved. Baseball guy, who's your team?
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite team?
Well, I grew up in, South Florida, so, was able to actually watch one of the Marlins World Series in person.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go.
Favorite player? Miguel Cabrera?
I go, no, well, way back. I was a Kirby Puckett guy way back in the day, so now I'm dating myself.
All right, we'll let you talk some football. Get on out of here. Thanks so much, Coach. Really
my
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Good luck this season. Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator for the Penn State football team, joining us here live on our set. He's going to go talk to the rest of this group out here as we take a look at the 2023 Penn State football schedule, and it all begins at night under the lights here at Beaver Stadium on September 2nd against West Virginia. Delaware up after that. Then the Big Ten slate begins on the road on the 16th of September against Illinois. The Iowa game here at home, also a night game and a whiteout. And you can see the rest of that 2023 Penn State football schedule there on your screen. Ohio State, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Rutgers, and Michigan State. For tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com/Penn State. Can't wait to get this entire thing off and rolling here in 2023. Less than a month until we're back here inside Beaver Stadium, and this place is going to be absolutely rocking. But the press conferences have wrapped up. We're about to be joined by student athletes here on our set. And speaking of student athletes, one that has made the transition from playing basketball at Penn State to now working within the athletic department, Miles Dredd. And Miles is going to be a part of our coverage team here today. He's going to go out and he's going to do our roving interviews. He's going to be out in the hot sun. Sorry you don't get the shade like I do, Miles, but I get it for a reason, just so you know. Yeah. But we're looking forward to having you here with us during our Media Day live stream today. And I know you're looking forward to the transition of maybe doing a little broadcasting. What are you looking forward to most?
Personally, I think having such a good relationship with the guys, getting me started off early, I think it's going to be good for me to just get my feet wet and, learn about the business. But working with guys like you and Jim Notchman, I think I think I'm really under two great guys' wings and, just learning as much as I can, being a sponge.
I appreciate that. We know you had the opportunity to go out to Chicago and participate in a seminar with the Big Ten Network. What was that experience like for you, and what were some of the things that you learned out there working with probably some that are a little bit better than me?
It was amazing. I had such a great experience. I was out there with a bunch of former student athletes that gave me such a different view on different sports, and working with, Howie Griffith and Connor Onion and guys that I've seen on TV and never really understood exactly what goes into what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. I think that gave me a bit more insight in something that I would really enjoy pursuing one day.
Well, I know you're going to ask some questions out there to these guys and try to get insight into their experience here. You told me, though, before, walking out of these gates just inside the state, and you played in some amazing venues and some big-time games here at Penn State with the Penn State basketball team. But what's the feeling when you walk out the gates into this stadium?
I get goosebumps every time. I've walked out this way with recruits, but I couldn't imagine being a player walking out with 107, 110,000 people out there screaming your name. I'm lost for words. I think that being in such a historic place and historic building, I think walking out here as a football player, I think there's nothing better than being in a whiteout environment. And I think that walking out this tunnel right there, the Penn State, hearing the bell, hearing the fans, hearing the "We Are," I think that's the best feeling in the world.
Well, you earned the nickname Mr. Penn State while you're playing here. What is special about this place? What makes this place so special?
I always say it all the time. I've been cursed with loving this place the way that no one could. I think I love this place. I want to be a part of something special, and Penn State is the greatest place on the planet. And I'm not saying that to sell it to anyone, but truthfully, that's how I feel. And I feel like Penn State has brought me in and has accepted me as one of their own.
You got your questions ready to go? You ready to go today?
I'm all locked in. I'm ready to go.
All right. Miles Dredd's going to be talking to a couple of different student athletes while he's out there on the field today. He's got the microphone. He's ready to go. He's made the transition from the basketball court into working with Penn State athletics, including joining our live stream here. Miles, good luck. We can't wait to hear from you out there.
Thanks, Trent.
Miles Dredd with us here today. Let's take a look at some of the graphics as we roll through this Media Day 2023. We saw the Penn State football schedule. Don't forget we have our live schedule coming up as well. And the theme games for the Penn State football season. The Helmet Stripe game kicks it off against West Virginia. That's a 7:30 kickoff, and that's going to be Big Ten Saturday nights on NBC, CBS, and Fox, the big networks broadcasting Big Ten football this year. Spirit Day is the second game of the regular season against Delaware on September 9th. That game will be airing on Peacock. It's also Thon Day here at Beaver Stadium. The Penn State Whiteout is at 7:30 on September 23rd against Iowa here inside Beaver Stadium. Penn State and UMass. It's the Generations of Greatness game and something that's always on everyone's calendar. Homecoming, October 14th at 3:30. Military Appreciation on October 28th against Indiana. The Penn State Stripe Out is against Michigan. That game already set for noon on November 11th. That will air on Fox Big Noon that day. And the All-U Day to wrap it up, Senior Day inside Beaver Stadium against Rutgers. What should be it's a terrific home slate. It's a terrific schedule. I know everyone's so excited about this roster heading into this season, but November 18th will be All-U Day and Senior Day against Rutgers. For tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com/Penn State. The Penn State Coaches Show returns on Thursday, August 31st at 6 p.m. Of course, head coach James Franklin will be on, and what better way to start the new year than to have the Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Dr. Patrick Kraft, joining the show as well. So head coach James Franklin, Dr. Pat Kraft on the Coaches Show, live from the field. It's presented by Pepsi, and it all begins on Thursday, August 31st at 6 p.m. and every Thursday throughout the football season, then into basketball season as well. Live audio and stream on gopsusports.com, and also our local radio affiliates and our radio partners across the state, thanks to our partnership with the Penn State Sports Network. So that is what's coming up with the Penn State Coaches Show. And fans, as you come to the games this year, remember that we can't wait to see you inside Beaver Stadium, and make sure that you are practicing that Happy Valley hospitality. Exercise that Penn State pride. Be respectful, be responsible, be great fans, and be gracious hosts as we head into this Penn State football season. So we're going to be joined here on set in just a couple of moments by pair of running backs, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. They'll be our first student athletes coming up. As you can see, some of the media starting to congregate out here on the field. I'm sure the players will be coming out the tunnel very, very soon. Miles Dredd will be walking around doing our live interviews as the press conferences have wrapped up. But it is a gorgeous, and I mean absolutely gorgeous Sunday here inside Beaver Stadium. Don't get to say that very often. A gorgeous Sunday inside Beaver Stadium. You know, this place has been busy this off season. Had yoga out here, film night. They showed the Lion King up on the video boards, and what a great venue to soak it all in as you get to look. The grass looks terrific. This place is going to be rocking less than 1 month from today when West Virginia comes to town for a 7:30 kickoff on NBC. But I think it was just great to hear from Coach Franklin. Some of the things that I jotted down from his press conference. Let me flip back through my notes here. But just the depth that they've talked about throughout the course of, I think you saw it in the spring, you saw it at summer. We talked about it at Big Ten Media Days about a week and a half ago in Indianapolis. He said he really feels like there's at least a 2.5 deep or a 3 deep at all positions. You know, we joked about his dog. You talked about the family, though, the family environment that they have here with Penn State football and the strong culture. And a part of that is bringing some of your own family back. You mentioned how many different alumni are a part of the program and working with inside the Lash Building on an everyday basis, and just how important that is, and then the value of the competition that takes place every single day. And you're seeing that right now in the quarterback room with Drew Aller and Bo Perbula. Also gave praise to Jackson Smolik as the great work that he has done so far in camp. Obviously at the running back position, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, we saw how explosive they were as you want big plays. We talked to Mike Yursich about the big plays that they've been able to develop on offense, the wide receiver position, tight end. Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren are going to join us here on our set, and it starts with that great stable along the offensive line. Speaking of that offensive line, I think they were working hard through the offseason. I mean, who wasn't for the Penn State football team? Man, we had some really hot, and I mean humid days throughout the course of the summer here in Happy Valley. Made life tough for those guys as they went through those summer workouts. They're the guys getting after it during the offseason. As you can see, the players are starting to make their way out onto the field here for Media Day 2023. They'll go to each of their position groups, will be spread around the field and have a chance to talk to the reporters. More than 100 reporters here today from all across the state, really all across the country, to hear Coach Franklin's press conference and have the opportunity to talk to each of these individuals here for Media Day 2023 on what is just a very hot, a very warm Sunday here in Happy Valley. We appreciate you carving out some time to join us for our Media Day live stream to kick off this new football season. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please just leave in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, what you're excited for most for this upcoming Penn State football season. We can't wait. We can't wait to see this thing kick off against West Virginia on September 2nd. It's going to be here before you know it. These guys are starting their camp already, and you can see our running backs making their way in. Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton going to get it started with us, but let's first take a look back at some of their big plays from their freshman season.
Energy made this one. It's time to play Penn State football and put it on our back. How we run, how we block, and how we catch. And at the end of the day, finish fast in everything we do.
Allen and Singleton, two of the top running backs in America coming out. How rare is that to see two guys in the same class go to the same school?
Busting free is Singleton. Nick Singleton in a foot race. And then he will run. Touchdown, Penn State.
And then he's down the shoulder. Makes a man miss in the backfield. Running through contact in the end zone. Touchdown.
Everything you're looking for in a tailback, Katron Allen has.
They've become one of the most dominant run games in college football. And if you don't commit extra resources to stopping those guys, they will eat you up.
I be in the field, you be in the bleachers. 10 Balenciagas, 10 bands on some sneakers. I be in the field, you be in the bleachers.
Man, I can't wait watching those highlights. You guys are veterans now. This is old hat for you two, doing media, sophomores, going to get back out there on the field. Can't wait, can't wait. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, number 10, number 13 with us here live on our set for our exclusive one-on-one interviews, I guess one-on-two here with both of you. Nicholas, we'll start with you. First year experience getting out here on Beaver Stadium. What have you looked forward to most throughout the summer about having that opportunity to do it now in your second season at Penn State?
My first experience at Penn State was amazing. My first career here, it was a crazy season. Rose Bowl chance, it was all good. This for the season, I'm just trying to get better at everything I did last season. I'm not perfect, so I'm just trying to work on everything.
Katron, same question for you. I know you absolutely love playing in front of these fans here at Beaver Stadium. What have you looked forward to most throughout the offseason of getting a chance to get back out here on the grass at Beaver Stadium?
Just what I'm looking to most is just getting better, looking for more opportunities. What I left out on the field, just trying to get better, learn from my mistakes last year, and just keep getting better and keep learning for real.
Where do you think you can get better? What is the next step for you in this offense and in college football?
Just learning the defense, learning with everything for real, just for real, just learning for real.
He's a pretty special player last year.
He definitely was.
What can he do this year?
He can do everything this year. Like he said, there's things we can work on together. We just making each other better. So just really look out. We're going to have a good season this year.
Katron, how do you make this guy better?
We make each other better for real in practice. Just telling each other what we did right, what we did wrong for real. Just competing, doing everything that we can to do to get better.
You talked about wanting to get better as well, Nicholas. What are the strides you think that you can make in your second year of playing college football?
Like Katron said, knowing the defenses, knowing the open man is, defender, the last defender, getting better on my routes, running the ball, blocking. I did all that stuff last year, but I know I can get better with that stuff.
Do you have a favorite play, a favorite moment from looking back at last season?
Probably my first career touchdown, the second game. That just brings memories back to here. It's knowing just, you worked hard throughout spring, the summer, last year to get to that point, so it meant a lot.
Katron, you're smiling. You have an answer. You know it.
Yeah, I would say mainly getting in the end zone, anytime I get in the end zone, but when I had ran dude over in the Minnesota game, it kind of turned me up, I ain't gonna lie.
Is it better to get the contact, or would you rather see everyone in the rear view mirror? What would you rather have?
It was just the contact for real. I just love hitting for real, so it was just the contact.
This guy's like, I want them all in the rear view mirror. I'm putting those jets on, those afterburners, and I'm out of here. What's the potential for your offense as you start camp? Where do you feel like your offense is at, and what's the potential for your offense going into this season?
I feel like our offense is doing good throughout this whole camp so far. Everybody's getting a lot of reps. The younger guys learning a lot. The older guys obviously coaching the young guys. So we have a lot of potential. We just got to take it 1 week at a time.
Katron, how's that offensive line? We're having Olu up here next. He's our next guest on this set. That's a pretty good group you got.
I say our O-line, we probably got one of the best O-line in the country. And the way they work and the way they come to work every day, putting their head down, digging in dirt, just getting better. Everybody getting better for real. So it just helped everybody as a team.
Coach Franklin was just talking about that in his press conference, and when we had him here on set, it seems like this is a really close-knit team. You guys are obviously close. It's formed a real special bond last year. What makes this team so close? Why?
Just we been here together. A lot of people came back from last year. We working so hard throughout spring, during the summer. Right now it's camp. Everybody's been going together, knowing like this could be the year. So we just got to take it 1 week at a time and just get better during camp and worry about West Virginia.
What I say is the things that people don't see when the camera's not on, the things, you feel me, that will bring us together for real, the things that people don't see.
I know you're talking about working out. I know you're talking about time in the locker room as well. But what do you guys like to do when you're not playing football?
Yeah, I used to hang out with my teammates. I'll chill out in my room, watch TV. Sometimes I'll get on a game, stuff like that.
What game?
I'm like a GTA person, GTA 5.
I be chilling for real. Kicking it, but I say what I like to do, play the game for real. I be playing the game a lot for real. And I like, so I just say playing the game.
So when you go home, you're watching highlights of the best running backs NFL on YouTube. Is that what you're doing?
No, definitely. I always try to watch somebody where I can get better at and see what they doing and what can I, you feel me? So whenever I'm playing the game, I always got another TV playing YouTube running backs.
Who are the running backs that you watch in the NFL right now, Katron?
I be watching a lot of Le'Veon Bell, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb. I be watching a couple running backs, trying to get information from each running back for real.
Nicholas, who are your favorite to watch?
Usually Saquon, Miles. I like Alvin Kamara, just how he plays the game. Just them type of running backs.
Knowing that you come to a place like Penn State and you mentioned those names, Saquon, Miles, what does the tradition in that running back room mean to be a part of here at Penn State?
Yeah, it just means a lot, especially them type of running backs, what they did throughout their careers here earlier on. Just looking up to them and them contacting us, telling us what they've been through college and what they can work on. So just it's like a brotherhood for real.
Katron, same question for you. There's a lot of tradition, a lot of history, a lot of great running backs have played here at Penn State. What does it mean to be a part of a group that has that?
It's something, it means a lot being a part of this group, that a lot of running backs that came through, because it's a legacy. It's like leading a legacy for real. So it means a lot to be a part of this program and playing running back.
What influences Coach Sider made on you?
A lot. Just being the way he coached and the way he coached us hard. It make us, work every day, come every day to work and get the job done for real.
Same thing. He's a really good coach, even a better person. Like he said, we come to work every day. He doesn't go easy on us. He coaches us hard. He does the small details. He's just really overall good coach.
All right, we'll let you guys, you're in the shade here, but we're going to have you guys head on out, get out there with the rest of the media. Really appreciate the time. We'll talk to you probably a bunch throughout the year. Appreciate it, guys.
A lot.
Thank you.
Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen joining us here live on our set. We had Miles Dredd up here moments ago. Now he is out there with Johnny Dixon. Miles Dredd, take it away.
I'm here with Johnny Dixon. Johnny, got a couple questions for you, brother. I played in a bunch of different atmospheres, played in a bunch of different giant basketball stadiums. As a football player, what's it like coming out of that tunnel? I get goosebumps just walking out when the stadium's empty. Tell me about what it's like.
It's crazy. Are we hearing this? Every time you go through it, it's feel like your first time every time, but once you're on the field, it's time to lock in. But you got to take it all in when you can, because it's a moment you don't want to miss.
I had a very strict pregame routine. I'm making sure that food's right, clothes are right, socks are out. What is your pregame routine every single day?
I don't want to go through the whole thing, but the important ones. My mom, my people, they fly into Philly. They got to bring me oxtails one way or another. I eat that before the game, either the night before or the morning of. However way I got to get to them, I got to eat those. I say my little prayer, take my lap around the field, and then everything else. It's too long, but that's the main ones.
Okay. Oxtails, is that your favorite food?
Easy. Yeah, oxtails.
Okay. Vacation. You got 3 teammates that you got to go anywhere in the world. Pick those 3 teammates and pick your destination location.
Dang. Hold on. I don't want to get nobody in trouble. We're going to go Day-Day and then Kalen King. And we're going to go to Cancun.
Cancun, I like that. I've been to Cancun before. I didn't get a chance to go on vacation this summer, but
I would take you, but they don't. Yeah.
That's what's up. If not football, what sport and why?
Probably basketball. It was the first sport like I fell in love with, to be honest with you, but I wasn't like 6'6" or nothing, so football.
Basketball. You can hoop.
You'll see it one day. We'll lock in.
Okay, all right. Trip, we're here with Johnny Dixon. Back to you.
Olu Fashion, who joined us here on set. Who's going to win one-on-one, Johnny Dixon or Miles Dredd?
Oh, man, I mean, Johnny's my teammate, but I also went to the same school as Miles in high school. But in basketball, or
in basketball, who's winning one-on-one?
I'm sorry, Johnny. Yeah, it's Miles. It's got to be Miles. Yeah, it's got to be Miles.
Olu Fashion, who joining us here, Penn State offensive lineman. Really appreciate the time. As always, we were just chatting out in Indianapolis for Big Ten football media days, but we didn't have those 2 running backs with us on that trip. Describe blocking for those 2 as they kicked off our media day here on the set.
It's awesome. I mean, when you look at both Nick and Katron, they're both very different running backs. You know, Nick is more of a, hit one hole and it's gone, and Katron is a running back that can make something out of nothing. So being able to block for the both of them, it's awesome. I mean, definitely make my job a whole lot easier with those 2 being as talented as they are. And, just going forward into the season, I'm just really excited to be blocking for them.
I know you like to run block and pass block. Do you prefer one or the other?
Oh yeah, easily run blocking. Yeah, run blocking easily. I mean, there's like a offensive line quote along the lines of, "There's no better feeling than moving a man from point A to point B against his will." And I mean, honestly, until you're in that position, I mean, it's impossible to describe, but you get that opportunity a lot with run blocking, so I'd have to go with that.
You just told me it's impossible to describe. You kind of took away my follow-up question. I was going to say, describe being in the trenches in the Big Ten. We know this is a conference that the history of the conference is about winning the battle up front, going against such great competition every single week in the conference. How do you describe being in the trenches and being up front?
Yeah, I mean, the one word I'd describe it as is just very gritty. I mean, at the Big Ten, I don't think it really gets much better than that. And, being into the trenches, especially with my guys, I mean, it's tough, but it's great. I mean, all of us were extremely hard workers, and, we put in the time and the effort to perform that the way that we do, and we're certainly doing that right now in training camp. So for this season, it's looking really exciting.
What do you like about the group that you have along the offensive line going into training camp? I know Coach Franklin talked a lot about the depth at every single position. How are you guys making each other every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like the one word to describe us right now is extremely focused. Right now, everyone is going out practicing very hard, and everyone's paying attention to the small details. But the most important thing is that everyone has the mentality of going out every day and practice, and just practicing with the intention of getting better every day. Stacking good days one by one. So, right now we've been stacking good days right now, but we know that in order for us to get to where we want to be, we need to stay consistent and keep on stacking more days.
Well, that's what Coach Franklin, you guys must listen to him when he talks in those team meetings. Because when we had him up here, he said the biggest challenge for camp, and I want to know your reaction to this, is, you've stacked a couple of good days together so far, but how you can continue to stack not just good days, but elite days together when you start to get maybe a little bit tired, when you start to get a little beat up, when you start to get a little bit hungry. How does this group do that over the next couple of weeks to make sure you're ready to go when September 2nd comes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what separates, good teams from elite teams, being able to stay consistent, practice at the same level or even better, at a better level than they did the previous day. And, that's what we're trying to achieve right now. So I know as far as the O-line room's concerned is, right now everything's all about consistency, putting in the same effort or even more effort one day into the next day.
You're obviously a very smart football player and a smart guy in general. Just to say consistency, I think a fan out there watching may just think, oh, okay, how hard could it be? What is the challenge in being consistent? What are the most difficult things to make sure you find that consistency as a football player?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at least the biggest thing for me is, there's a huge mental aspect to it, day in and day out. We're all in college football, Division I college athletes. We're all going against each other. We're all really good, and one of us might get the better of another. So it's just being able to find that, middle ground of, okay, well, I didn't do as good on this rep as I thought I would do, but I need to, forget about it. Just look forward to the next rep, the next opportunity to get better.
What are you doing in your evaluation process of those reps? Maybe you get beat in a rep. Maybe you take someone down in a rep and you're out there making sure that they're learning something from it. How do you evaluate yourself? Like, what's your procedure with film? What are you doing throughout the course specifically of camp so you're learning from things that are going on out there on practice field?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. I mean, just evaluating the film in general, just looking at every single rep that not only that I do, but the rest of the offensive line does, trying to find things to work on, making sure that I acknowledge all of the correct things that we did do, but, more importantly, just looking for areas of improvement, and then, writing that down in my notes as, like a point of emphasis for us to go out and get better on for the next day in practice.
And it's easy to do that when you're going against a great defensive line every single day. What makes that group so good?
Oh, man. I mean, biggest thing for them is their mentality. I mean, our D-line, they call themselves the Wild Dogs, and that's exactly what they are. I mean, all day, it's just pure chaos with them. But, it's more of a focused chaos. They know what they're doing, and they're all extremely talented athletes, and, I can't wait to watch them on Saturdays.
I asked that because Miles Dredd's going to talk to Devon Ellis next.
Okay.
Miles, I know you got Devon out there, part of that Wild Dogs group on that defensive line. Olu just talked about him and said, you never know what this group's going to do next, and he said it's such a special unit. You have Devon Ellis. Go ahead, Miles.
Devon, I'm here with you out here at Football Media Day. I got a couple questions for you, brother. What's your pregame meal or your pregame routine that you'd like to share with everybody?
So pregame meal, I always have 2 pieces of steak, piece of lasagna, a little bit of pasta, and I always grab my little ice cream for dessert afterwards. And then routine, I always call my pops and my moms before the game. I listen to a little church song, like Never Would Have Made It Without You. Listen to that, and then just tune in, and then that's it, pretty much.
Love that for you. Who or what is your why? I see you mentioned your dad when you called him on the phone. Who is your why when you're thinking about playing football? Who is your why? Why do you play football?
Really my family, I've come so far, and I wouldn't have came this far without them. My pops especially, he moved across the country just to keep me in Maryland. He moved to Death Valley, California just to keep me in Maryland so that way I could pursue my football aspirations. It was a 2-3 year span where he didn't get to see me play like high school ball. And so I push every day, not only for him, but for my sisters and my mother as well, to give them a better life than, not that I had a bad life, but a better life than what we've lived, so that they don't have to worry anymore.
I'm proud of you. I watched you grow up for so long. I'm super happy for you. I can't wait to see you out on the field. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking to me. Trip, right back to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Miles. That's a great message there from Devon, too. Going out there and doing it every day for his family. Family is an important part for Kalen King and his family here at Penn State, specifically with his brother Kobe, also on the Penn State football team. We hear family. It's something that Coach Franklin always talks about, Kalen. For you, it really hits home with your brother being with you every step of the football journey. How important is family within this Penn State football program?
Family is very important within the program because, Coach Franklin preaches it day after day, and he really really harps on it. Like when I was being recruited in high school, like he kept stressing the fact that like he wants both of us. So like ever since my recruiting days, I knew Coach Franklin was very family oriented, family man, and that's definitely a reason why I chose to come here.
How important, as you say that, a reason why you chose to come here, how important was it to continue on this next step of the journey and having your brother there every step of the way with you?
It was real important. I mean, even though like at one point in our recruiting journeys, like Kobe wanted to like split up at one point, but after talks with our family and just with each other, like we figured out that we wanted to do this thing together. So after we had that conversation, we took visits to schools, and just Penn State just hit it for us. Like the way they treated all the players with their families and their siblings and all that, it just felt like the right fit.
How has that been reinforced now that you've been in the football program going into your third season?
Man, it's being reinforced every day, every season, it feels like, because like every time I'm around the facility or I'm around practice or anything like that, I'm always getting like a lot of staff members coming up to me, just speaking. Like little things like that go a long way with me. Like just speaking to me, just asking me how my day's been, and my brother as well. So just little things like that go a long way.
Yeah, I think that's a great message and a great story. But we want to check out some highlights from the defensive backs. We know you guys have some talent back there, and you guys have been working hard throughout the offseason. So take a look at this, and we'll talk about this in a little bit.
You guys saw special today. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Backseat boys and safety boys coming crazy this year. Gotta keep stacking these days. Let's work.
You were shaking your head. You're like, man, I should have had that one.
Yeah.
But that's a ball hawk in secondary right there.
Definitely.
Getting your hands on footballs every single day out there in practice. Going into the second year with Coach Diaz, and we know the influence that he has in wanting to create big plays. How is that prevalent every single day you're out there on the practice fields at Lash?
Man, Coach Manny preaches it every day before practice. We have meetings where we meet with the unit. We just go over like the plays, what he expects from us, the calls of the day, and just things of that nature. So every time we take the field, like we're like, anytime Manny is out there with us, it's for like just like we have a purpose to do it for. Like Manny's one of those coaches who he makes you like want to play for him. Like he motivates you to play for him. So
what can this defense do heading into the 2023 season?
I think we can be real special. You know, we got a lot of returning starters. We got a lot of young guys stepping up. We got a lot of guys coming back. So I feel like, man, this defense has the opportunity to do real big things, and I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to it.
I was just asking, we had Nicholas and Katron up here, and I asked him who their favorite running backs are to watch in the NFL right now. Who are guys that you're watching that you model your game after?
Oh, man, I got a lot, man, because I watch a lot of corners. But just to name a couple, Marshawn Lattimore, he's one of my favorites, just because, like, the way he plays, like, the aggressiveness, the confidence he plays with. Jair Alexander is another big one, because, like, he's one of those guys where he's not super big corner, but he plays far beyond his size. And Jalen Ramsey's another guy. Yep. And Tre'Davious White, Denzel Ward. Like, I can keep going. Like, it's a lot of guys who I watch that I'm really interested in.
When you watch this, are you watching like Red Zone, Sunday Ticket, and just bouncing around? Are you watching film? Do you have film of them that you go into Lash and watch? How do you watch?
I watch games. I watch like little YouTube shorts. Like I can watch like TikToks. Like it don't matter what it is, as long as
I should have known. TikToks. Like, I should have known.
Nowadays it's easy to like see anything. So like, man, I just watch. I just wherever, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, film, games. Like it don't matter, man.
What are the little things that you're trying to pick up as you watch?
Just like little things like the tendencies that they use, or like their footwork techniques, or like just like even like it might sound crazy, but even like celebrations that they do after they make a play. Like Jair Alexander has this one celebration where he like points to the sky and then like he straps like a strap over himself. So Cam Miller actually did that celebration yesterday. So man, I'm definitely planning on using that one this year, and just things of that nature. Like anything I can just pick up from guys who are already where I'm trying to be at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, you have this whole year planned out. I love it, Kalen.
Yes, sir.
Kalen, really appreciate the time. Miles Dredd has the Key Wheatley, part of that great secondary you guys have here at Penn State. Miles, I know you got some great questions for Zaki.
How you guys doing? Thanks, Trip. Back with my guy, Zaki. Got a couple questions for you, bro. I played in some of the best stadiums in the world. As a college basketball player, walking to the stadium, you get absolutely bombarded with fans, a lot of love, a lot of hate. Coming into Beaver Stadium on a football game day, tell me the feeling that you get. Can you describe it for me?
I mean, to be honest, the only word that can come to my mind really is goosebumps. Just the work we put in all year round to come into the stadium and see 110K fans outside the stadium, in the parking lot, downtown, and here, it's just crazy. It's a great experience to be a part of.
Now, earlier, Trip was talking to Kalen about the NFL guys. I know some of those guys have some of the best game day routines. Tell me a little bit about your pregame routine.
I mean, my pregame routine is pretty simple. It's just, most times I'm a very outgoing person, but on them game days I'm a little different. It's just my headphones in. Most of the time I'm going studio beats so I can stay locked in. And I got my playlist, and I'm just rocking out pretty much. Good vibes, some crazy music, some peaceful music, just to keep me at a nice little balance, keep me ready.
What's your favorite song to go to pregame?
Pregame, right now, probably be something by Lil Baby or NBA Youngboy, either freestyle or something like Rebels Kick In.
Okay, Rebels Kick In. Okay, I like that. Trip, back to you.
All right, Miles, great stuff. Really appreciate it. As always, thanks to Zaki out there. It's a nice day out there on the field. It's a little hot. It feels good, Curtis, to get inside under the shade of our tent here. Curtis Jacobs, Penn State linebacker, joining us. All right, season's here. Camp is here. Camp is underway. When do you start to get that, and maybe it's literally the day after the Rose Bowl, when do you start to get that itch in the offseason that, all right, I'm ready to go hit somebody. I'm ready to play some football again?
Honestly, I got it as soon as I finished my conditioning test. That's when all the work you put in, all the stuff that you've done that really has nothing to do with football, but you just do it because you're trying to see who's working. All that stuff ended, and now it's time to put the pads on. And I can't tell you how excited I am just to be out there working every day and just playing football. It's what I've loved since I was a kid.
Last year, the conditioning tests got a lot of hype because of P.J. Mustafer. It's all they talked about at Media Day out in Indianapolis. Then he was able to go eat at St. Elmo's. It was a great time. What is the conditioning? What can you tell us about the conditioning test?
It's a rite of passage. I'm blessed to say that I've never failed. One is, for me, it's just something that you got to do. So I always try to attack it, and it's just the last thing you got to do before you put the pads on.
And then you strap those pads on and go out and hit somebody and go play some football here at Penn State. All right, you talk about your conditioning. Where do you feel like your body's at? Where are you at physically? Where have you continued to evolve from the time we last saw you in the spring to now ready to attack this camp here this fall?
I feel like this has been one of my best off seasons. I've really put together a plan with Coach Fleury and Coach Losi just to work on my body and where I want to be, the weight I want to be, and just the strength I want to be. And I feel like that's really helped coming into camp. I feel stronger and faster, and I feel like that's just going to continue as we go on.
Where do you want to be physically going into camp? Why did you establish those goals, and what were they? Give us some specifics there. Where you wanted to be and why?
It's just my target weight, I set it at 235. I just wanted to be a little stronger in there, and obviously it's for injury prevention as well, just not being a little guy at linebacker. I really wanted to be a guy that can come in and fill a gap consistently, and really be the three-down backer that I've grown into as my career has gone on.
What's it mean to play linebacker here at Penn State?
It's a standard. We hold ourselves to the standard of being the best in the country, and we come out to practice and we attack that every day, and we don't put up for anything, and we just keep going every day.
What kind of group do you have this year in that linebacker room?
We have a lot of leaders. everyone always gives me the question of what's it like to be the leader in that room. And me personally, I feel like I already have a bunch of guys in the ones and twos that can lead. We got guys like Kobe King, Dom DeLuca, Tyler Elsdon, Abdul Carter, all guys that if they see something, they're going to speak on it as well. So it just makes my job easier.
Miles Dredd's going to talk to Abdul Carter next out there on the field. What was special about watching his growth and development in his freshman season?
It was just the confidence never wavered. Even when he wasn't really knowledgeable about what he needed to do, the confidence was always there, and he always just attacked every day, and he made plays, and that's really what makes you special in this defense.
If we asked Abdul to describe you as a teammate and as a football player, what do you think he'd say?
I think he would say a resource. I always try to be a resource for other players. I try to be as knowledgeable as I can about all three positions. So if somebody comes off the field and they have a question about what they're seeing, I make sure that I'm one of the guys they can come to and help them with that.
Is that the greatest compliment you can get as a teammate, that you're a mentor, a resource? And I feel like that's part of the standard here of playing at Penn State, that it's important not only for you to be the best player that you can be, but to help your teammates and the next generation of Penn Staters be the best player that they can be.
Well, you can't be the best player that you can be if you're not making your teammates better. And I feel like that's what the part of my game that I'm really starting to develop as this year started.
How are your teammates making you better?
They challenge me every day, and there's just a competition in the linebacker room. It's amazing. Like, we'll compete over little things, like just throwing a bottle in the trash can. It's amazing. And then just having a guy like Dom DeLuca in my position, it's been phenomenal. We probably talk and communicate more than I communicate to Coach Diaz. It's just, I'm coming off the field, he's asking me what I'm seeing. He's coming off the field, I'm asking him what he's seeing. It's just that connection between two guys at a position. It really makes us both better.
Linebackers, and you just ask them, they'll tell you how smart they all are. But linebacker, do you feel like your group not only is an extension of Coach Diaz, but by that answer, it sounds like you feel like now, as you've matured as a football player, that you almost feel like you're a coach yourself out there on the field?
That's almost how it feels. We try to make sure Coach Diaz's message is heard and understood throughout the defense, and that's just how we have to be and how we have to play.
Well, you can play free when you got guys like Chop Robinson up front taking care of that offensive line. Then you guys run wild out there in the second level of that defense. Curtis, really appreciate it. Have a great season. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The reason I bring up Chop Robinson, we're going to pivot. We're going to have him join us here next on set, but let's watch some of the great work that defensive line did during the course of last season.
They thought I fell off and they said I would be back. Chop Robinson chopped him down.
Swarmed in sacks. The best pass rusher on the football team, they said. He loves the attack style. Steps up and is sacked.
Tripped up the backfield. Good penetration. Came in quickly. Chop Robinson.
Pressure. And down he goes. Boy, does that ever have to feel good for Chop Robinson.
Watching those highlights have me ready to go for this season. Does it have you ready to go, Chop, as well?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this season. Right now, my main focus is camp, taking it day by day, and I'm just excited how things are going to play out.
I just asked Curtis the same question before. When do you start to get the itch as a football player to get back out there and hit somebody else?
I would say when pads get back on.
Yeah.
You know, the first 2 days you're in like spiders, just helmets, so you don't really get the full contact. Everything is tag off. But once the third, fourth day comes around, you're actually in pads and you get to hit somebody. So that's when you can start to get the itch.
What did you learn during your first season at Penn State?
I honestly learned a lot. I learned a lot from my D-line room, new coach, also Coach Scott. I learned everything that I needed to fix from last season, stopping the run, being more accurate with my hands on the pass rush. So I took those things in the offseason and just built on from there.
How does a guy spend his offseason? Can you give the fans watching at home kind of what that offseason looks like? I know you're allowed your time in the weight room, sometime around the coaches, what that offseason conditioning program may be for you, but also taking some time to get away from football as well. What's your offseason look like?
My off season, honestly, all football too.
Yeah.
But some, staying off your feet, watching the things from last season, and just mainly being off your feet and getting rest because season goes for long times, a couple months. So staying off your feet, I'd say that's the main thing I do.
It's funny because Coach Franklin was just talking about that. He said, yeah, the group's had a great start to camp, been able to stack days so far, but he's looking forward to seeing how the group handles a little adversity for the first time. Maybe you start to get a little bit banged up in camp. You get tired of camp. You get tired of facing the same guys. Maybe going up against Drew or Olu every single day. It starts to wear on you a little bit. When does the consistency factor become most challenging during camp?
I'd definitely say when you're getting banged up and the heat starts to catch up to you and stuff like that, your body starts being sore. But during those times when you're being consistent, you're still fighting through that helps you get better, and it's going to make the team better.
What kind of team do you feel like you guys have?
A great team. I think this season I'm excited for what's coming up. We're having a good camp right now, so just keep building on from there.
It seems like you feel that way, and I kind of get that sense from everyone. They're exuding a sense of confidence, not cocky, but a sense of confidence, and it's more so because not just that there's a lot of talent and depth on the field, but it seems like a really close-knit group. Why is that? Where does that sense come from that you guys have a really strong brotherhood on this team?
I would just say everybody sees the potential that we have. So just having that brotherhood and everybody having the same mindset around, it just helps build confidence around everybody. And people know the potential, so they just try to reach that expectation.
All right, 2 questions here. Number one, when you have a defensive end group like you have, how are each other making yourselves better every single day?
With the D-line group we have, when you're seeing somebody goes in front of you and they're doing the same thing that you're doing just as good, if not even better, it just makes you want to be great. So everybody's in the room pushing each other and just helping everybody reach everything they need to reach, and we're just making each other better overall.
Who's someone on that defensive side of the football, and maybe it is on that defensive line, that fans need to know about and be ready for watching the 2023 Penn State football season?
Honestly, I would say the whole D-line.
Yeah.
It's
I love the confidence
amazing.
there.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing this season, trust me.
How are you guys getting better? You kind of winced a little bit when I started to bring up Olu and maybe Hunter and Drew along that offensive line. How are they making you better too every single day?
Going against Olu every day in practice, he does things for his size that you don't see anywhere else. So going against him, it makes you better because nobody else in the country is going to be like him.
All right. Your defense is special. Another one of the reasons why. Abdul Carter's on that defense. Miles Dredd has him chopped. Really appreciate it. Miles, take it away with Abdul.
Thanks, Trip. Abdul, I've been asking a lot of the guys. I need to know, what is your pregame routine or your pregame meal?
In terms of meal, we have team meals, so I just eat whatever they provide. In the routine, I just stretch, stretch to make sure I'm as fast as I can be, as loose as I can be. And just going on the field, getting my mind right, listening to music, walking out on the field, just imagining me making plays, like visualizing success, I would say.
Visualizing success, okay. If not football, what sport would you play?
So I was pretty much football my whole life. I didn't really have any other sport that I played. I obviously had basketball dreams, but that's just a dream in my head. Another career I would choose probably be boxing, like to fight. I don't like to fight, but I like fighting, like just watching fight and understanding the game of fighting. So,
all right, last thing. You got to go on vacation. You got to pick a destination spot and 3 teammates to go with you. Let me hear them.
The destination would be probably like Aruba. I always want to go to Aruba. It's a nice looking island. And 3 teammates I would bring probably KJ Winston, Chop, probably Keon Wiley.
Any reason why those 3 guys?
Just cool dudes that I can trust, dudes I can depend on. Might get into some trouble, dudes I know they get right if they need to. Dudes I just have fun with.
That's what's up. Abdul, thank you so much. Trip, back to you.
Miles, appreciate it. Great work all day long out there. Come on in, cool off, grab yourself a water bottle. We're going to have a couple of tight ends joining us here, Tyler Warren, Theo Johnson. As they take their seats, let's take a look back at some of their best plays from one season ago.
These tight ends arguably could be in the conversation for best tight end room in all of America.
James Franklin told us he's got the best tight end room that he's ever had as a coach. Touchdown, Theo Johnson. Wide open. Tyler Warren strolls in
for the touchdown.
He's got a touchdown, Khalil Dinkins.
Wide open, heading to the end zone.
Theo Johnson reels it in. He's got it, and he's gone. Theo Johnson with a second touchdown on a perfect play.
Kiss my son, then go get it.
All right, we're going to wrap it up with the Aces here on Media Day Live 2023. Watch some of those highlights. Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren. I know you guys are ready for this season. I'll tell you, watching those highlights has me ready for this season as well. What's it been like to get back out there on the practice field?
I think it's been awesome. Just getting to be around the guys and just playing with the guys. I think it's been really good, and just makes you really excited for playing. I wish I could just snap my fingers and be on September 2nd, but I think that we got a lot of work to do before then, but it's been really great practice so far.
Tyler, I'm sure walking through the gates here at Beaver Stadium today, though, you're like, okay, yeah, we've had a few days at camp so far. 3 practices so far? You want to get in here, though, and play a football game already.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to be back playing football again, and just knowing what you're working for as a team and making sure the offense is one unit working to play in a stadium like this in front of the best fans in the country. So it's really exciting to get going again, and we're excited about this season.
Theo, you did mention that you have areas where you want to improve here over the next couple of weeks before West Virginia on September 2nd. Where are the biggest strides you want to see the offense continue to make before you play in a meaningful football game?
I think the big thing for us is consistency in pretty much every area. I think that we can do a good job of stacking good days, and I think sometimes we'll have a not so great practice, and then we'll have a good practice the next day. And I think just working on just being consistent overall and the run game, pass game, short yardage, stuff like that, I think is going to help us get to the point where we want to get to as offense.
Tyler, what has the consistency meant from having Coach Yursich, his scheme, working with Coach Franklin, the consistency of the entire offensive staff? How has that impacted where you feel like your preparedness level is and the foundation you start this year at, maybe compared to past seasons here at Penn State?
Yeah, obviously coming in as 2 guys who have been in this offense for a while, it helps us being able to know the stuff, and it also helps us bringing along the younger dudes or transfers who haven't been here as long, and they don't have to just rely on the coaches to be able to teach them and help them. So I think just having that aspect of it and being able to kind of hit the ground where you left the season prior is something big that'll help us a lot this season.
Do you still have a little bit of a quarterback mindset out there on the football field?
Yeah, I mean, I think just
Theo's laughing right now.
Yeah, I definitely still think I'm a quarterback sometimes, but I'm just focused on being the best tight end I can be and making sure our unit's as good as it can be, but I do miss it sometimes.
There was a reason for that question. It wasn't just to make Theo laugh a little bit. It was that, you have guys, after hearing Sean's voice for so long, right, back there, what can, whether it's yourselves as tight ends, Keandre has been in the offense for a long time at wide receiver, even Nicholas and Katron, the guys on that offensive line, what can you do to help Bo, Drew, Jackson, as now that's going to be a different voice in a game out there under center or in shotgun, calling plays inside this stadium when everyone's been so accustomed to hearing Sean back there for so long?
Yeah, I think just being dudes they know they can trust, that we've been in this offense and we know what we're going to do. So taking that responsibility off their back, whether it's just the tight ends or I know like Keandre, that he's going to know what he's doing. So just being able to give them the confidence around them so they can focus on what they have to do is a big part of it.
I think the big thing with that is just complementary football, and there's times where they're going to make mistakes and we're going to have to bail them out, and vice versa. And there's a situation in practice where someone checked a play to the wrong side, and then Tyler spoke up and made sure it was to the right way. So just little stuff like that is going to kind of get us where we need to go.
But the way Coach Franklin and Coach Yursich were talking about that group in particular at quarterbacks, it seems like they might not need a ton of help sometimes. That's a really talented group that's throwing you the football every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously you just look at the tape sometimes and you're just in awe a little bit of some of the talent that we have in that room, and it's exciting to see. And obviously they're young guys that still have a ways to go, but I think it's definitely exciting to see the talent we have back there throwing us the ball.
I know you want to have your hands on the football as a pass catcher, but when you're blocking in the run game and you see Nicholas or Katron take off, how much pride? Ty Howell might be watching this right now. How much pride do you take in the blocking element of your responsibilities as tight ends as well, and what the importance is of that to your offense?
I think that we take a lot of pride in it. I think you can just turn on the tape and see how fired up we get when they're running for a big play or we make a big block. I think it's a huge part of our game, and I think that something that we take a lot of pride in the tight end room as being tight ends that are not just pigeonholed into one aspect of our game.
Miles Dredd was doing some interviews for us out there. Great basketball player, pretty good interviewer as well. The question, I'm going to steal one of his questions. He was so good today, I'm going to steal one of his questions. If you could pick 3 teammates to go on any vacation with, who are the 3 that you would pick? Are they all tight ends?
I'm going to go more than 3, and I'm going to pick Bo Prabula, Liam Clifford, and Dom DeLuca, and then Theo, because that's who I went on vacation with before, so I'm going to take my same crew.
Are you allowed to say, where'd you go?
I went to Fort Lauderdale.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the crew. Yeah, that's kind of our little travel group whenever we have a little time, even if it's just going somewhere not far away. That's kind of our group.
What do you like to do to escape from football? In the little time that you get to do that, what do you do to escape?
I think this summer for us it's been golf. Tyler's probably...
Who's the best on the team?
Best on the team is probably Sander. So hey, Dad.
He's got that golfer frame, that wiry frame. Specialist, though, too. Probably has some time on his hands. Among your group, who's your foursome? The same group?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's kind of been like all summer. That's kind of the group of guys.
Who ended the summer with the bragging rights?
Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
Well, me and Bo beat Liam and Dom in a seven game series, so I think I might have to take that one.
Hey, you can just drop that mic and head on out. That's good. That's it. Guys, really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren. Can't wait to see this season kick off. Thanks for wrapping up Media Day with us here on our set.
Sir,
all right. Let's take a look at some of those graphics again. We'll run through those one last time. Reminders for our fans as we head into this 2023 season. Don't forget our Penn State football theme games. The helmet stripe game coming up on September 2nd to kick off this season against West Virginia. They have sirens going off in the background telling everyone to get up out of here, that it's time to wrap up Media Day 2023. Spirit Day, Thon Day, September 9th. The second game against Delaware, the Penn State whiteout against Iowa on CBS on September 23rd. Homecoming on October 14th. It's the Generation of Greatness game as well. Those special uniforms the team will wear that day. Military appreciation against Indiana. The stripe out against Michigan. And Senior Day and All U Day against Rutgers coming up on November 18th. That home football schedule, 7 games at home. As you can see, the full schedule there, including the away contest at Illinois, at Northwestern, at Ohio State, at Maryland, and at Michigan State. And remember, that's a special Friday game on the 24th of November, a Black Friday game against Michigan State. And the Penn State Coaches Show kicks off Thursday, August 31st at 6 p.m. Hit these reminders one last time for you, featuring head coach James Franklin and Penn State Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Dr. Pat Kraft. We'll also be on the show that day live from the field. You can also stream that on gopsusports.com. It is presented by Pepsi. So that's going to wrap up our 2023 Media Day live stream here from Beaver Stadium. Thank you so much for tuning in. And it's been a long day out here. It's been nice to have the shade here today, but our crew has done an unbelievable job hanging tough in the hot sun on this Sunday. And thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to spend it with us here, wherever you may be watching on Penn State football social media accounts, or gopsusports.com, or Lion Vision stream, wherever you may be watching from here on this Sunday. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us and learn a little bit about the Penn State football team, as we can't wait to get this thing kicked off. Again, camp is continuing right now. They'll actually practice later today. And then we'll be back here inside Beaver Stadium before you know it for the home and season opener against West Virginia. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Brian Tripp for our entire team saying so long from Media Day 2023. We'll talk to you, I guess, from football on September 2nd. Thanks again.
We welcome you to one of the great scenes in all of college football. A crowd that is proactive. You better pack your poise and your toughness and your resilience, because this crowd was able to disrupt opposing offenses.
This is the best student section in the country by far.
Blizzard of football fandom roaring here.
This crowd's getting into it, and as a quarterback and an offensive line, makes communication difficult.
109,000 people just keep getting louder and louder.
The crowd noise has been a huge advantage here at home for Penn State.
You get 110,000 people to show unity. You tell them that they matter, that they make a difference, that they are needed, and you get this.